All right, so welcome to Entrepreneurs Track. I'm Amy Duncan. I'm the director of the Brink SBDC. First, I want to thank the University of San Diego, not UCSD, but USD, located on the northwest corner of the 8 and the 5, northeast. And we are housed in the School of Business. They are host to us as the SBDC and also the Free Enterprise Institute. So we're really grateful for the hosting that they provide. I also want to thank our partners, the ecosystem of partners that we collaborate with to put on ecosystem events and support our founders in the innovation ecosystem. We have the TMA Blue Tech. Matt Clausen is one of our investor advisors providing commentary tonight. So thank you for joining us. Their logo's in the bottom right corner. And SDEE, Randy Schreckes, is also an advisor, but also on the board of San Diego Entrepreneurs Exchange. I, of course, want to thank my funders, my grant funders, the Small Business Administration and California Office of the Small Business Advocate, who is going to come. I have a meeting with them on November 14th. That is the November pitch decon. So they're going to stay after the meeting and come to pitch deconstruction on November 14th. And so I hope you guys are all joining us that day at the University of San Diego in the Manchester auditorium. So that'll be a great showcase of all the work that we've done. Of course, our sponsors who provide funding: C3 Bank, Kenobi Martins, Witham, Clearpoint Agency, Mintz, Coeptus, some law firms, Seraph. So about the Free Enterprise Institute, we're located, of course, at the University of San Diego. There's a range of community to student-facing events. So we do things very specific for students, but then we have things that are very outreach to the community, like the services we provide at the Brink and the San Diego Angel Conference. And so the Brink SBDC, we provide free and confidential one-on-one advising and training to help innovative founders access capital to build investable companies. We currently have around 800 clients right now, and over since the lifetime of the Brink, the last 5 years, we've helped with 375 billion of capital infusion. So helping connect investors to, or founders to, SBIR grant funding and angel investment. If you want to become a Brink client, scan the QR code. You don't have to be a Brink client to participate in the San Diego Angel Conference. Okay, what is the San Diego Angel Conference? So the San Diego Angel Conference consists of 2 series of events. There's the E-Track, which we're in right now, which runs from September to December, where we train founders and help them prepare to pitch and compete in the San Diego Angel Conference. It's weekly, every Tuesday. You guys are in it right now. And then the I-Track starts up in February, and that is where we train the investors. So we activate accredited angel investors in the local community, angel investors who are accredited and we're curious about it. There's a low investment unit that they invest in, and then pool all of that investment units to come up with at least $200,000 as the investment in the winner of the contest. Historically, we have raised more than 200,000 and have been able to invest in more than one finalist. And so the deadline to apply is on December 19th. And the event where we announce the winner will be on May 9th. And if you apply to pitch, if you apply for the competition, you get a free ticket to the event. And so we'll have 6 finalists there, at least 200,000. That's Oriana in the photo from the very first Angel Conference when she won the grand prize there. Okay, if you don't win, you do get exposure. The investors do review your applications. Those investor connections reverberate for a long time. Those connections make introductions. You get experience pitching. You get access to you meet other founders. You meet Brink advisors who are providing you advice along the way. All right, so Today we are the 10th of October. This is going to be the Ask and Crafting an Effective Traction slide. Next week, we'll be back in person at USD for the second pitch deconstruction. So if you want to, we welcome you all to come. Just do a 1-minute pitch on stage without slides, and then we'll vote. And the top votes will come back and do a 3-minute pitch with slides, and then there'll be feedback from the investor panel. So just take note of the application deadline on the very bottom on December 19th. Okay, and of course, May 9th for the finale Angel Conference. All right, so tonight, what's happening tonight? So I want to introduce we have some advisors, investors here who are going to provide some ask questions or feedback not feedback, it's just the dialogue with our founders. We have Joe Crowder, he's a Brink advisor, Randy Schreckey's Brink advisor, and Matt Clausen, who's the executive director of TMA Blue Tech. Matt, if you want to give a little quick brief overview of what TMA Blue Tech is, you can have the floor for a minute or so.
Oh, sure. Thank you. TMA Blue Tech is a cluster organizer for the sustainable ocean and water technology space. Been around since 2007, located in San Diego. And we are a nonprofit that works with industry, academia, and policymakers to advance sustainable ocean and water technologies. And our marquee conference is coming up in November. It's called Blue Tech Week right here in San Diego. I'd encourage people who want to know about the speakers we've got and what the Blue Tech space looks like. It's vibrant, amazing, and very cool space to be in. That's tmabluetech.org, and you can find more information there.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Sure.
Okay. And so as soon as we end, next we will have Patrick, who's joined us at the last minute. We're so grateful. He will present what he has and we'll get into questioning, and then we'll move on to Tosh from ChargeNet and Electroflow Finance, and then Jose from Fluid Power AI, and Ryan Espinoza from First Light Coffee Whiskey. And then we'll take a break. And then after the break, we'll go into breakout rooms where you guys can meet in small cohorts and discuss where you are and get some peer advising. And we'll close it off at 8:30. So with that, Patrick.
Oh, so thank you, Amy.
How are you? Do you have slides you want us to share, or you want to just?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. And let me see here. Where's the share feature? There you go. Share my screen. I should have this figured out by now, right? Can you see it okay? Can you see that okay?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you so much for inviting me, Amy. As you know, I always like to help out whenever I can, because just a quick plug on SDAC. For our company, it was game changing. It was in participating in the event. It was SDAC 4, so a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago. And I can talk a little bit later about this, but we probably wouldn't be a company anymore unless unless we had participated and gone through the program, and we were fortunate enough to win the competition. So anyway, so anytime I can help out, I'm definitely willing to. So let's get started. So I'm Patrick. I'm the founder and CEO of Carry Health, and the problem that we're solving is medication adherence. We're doing that via this small, tiny, quarter-sized wearable monitor that uses tiny microneedles to measure drug metabolization rates in the interstitial fluid in real time for two purposes. One, to inform personalized dosing, and two, for monitoring adherence. Now, while our sensor can detect many different medications, we're going to prove our platform capability first with a medication called methadone. Methadone is used to treat opioid addiction. You might ask, why opioids? And why methadone? Well, one, I had a close family member that struggled with opioids, so I have a real passion for making a difference here. And then two, the emergence of illicit fentanyl has created a very urgent need for new solutions. And basically, one option for patients or people that are addicted to fentanyl, there are very, very few options that remain, but one of them is methadone treatment. And methadone, unfortunately, has two major problems, even though it's otherwise safe and efficacious. One problem is that it takes too long to get to a therapeutic dose. The second problem is that once patients do get to a therapeutic dose, they have to go to a clinic every day in order to prove compliance. Yeah, every day. So the combination of those two cause high dropout rates. People go back to using fentanyl, overdosing, landing in the ER. And as you can see, total cost of care expenses spiral out of control. And the real dilemma here is that these are people that have decided that they want to leave this cycle of addiction and move on to a better life, but it's just too difficult to stay in treatment. And so here's what we've created to help patients escape this vicious cycle. We created this wearable monitor that informs clinicians when a patient has a high metabolization rate. Then they can start a patient at a higher dose and titrate them more quickly to that therapeutic target dose. And then once they're at the therapeutic target dose, they can use our monitor to secure what are called take-home doses so they can demonstrate compliance remotely. Those two factors are life-changing for patients, and it'll enable them to stay in treatment and escape that vicious fentanyl cycle. To enable this solution, we've assembled a team of experts in medtech, chemistry, and engineering with a track record of resilience and execution. Personally, I've been part of 7 exits, and together we have the right team to make monitoring of medication levels a reality. So far, because of the large potential of our solution, we've generated a lot of traction. We're very grateful for the angel funds that are on our cap table, because they all represent smart angel money. You see the picture there in the middle. Shout out to SDAC, who actually led our original seed round and jump-started what enabled us to raise a $2.3 million round. Another shout out to the co-fund, who is our largest investor. They only invest in deals where they see the potential return of investment of 30x. So that's 30. I also want to announce, this is actually now the second time. The first time I shared it just about an hour ago at Health. Very proud and happy that we were just awarded another non-dilutive NIH grant that'll help support future product development and our pivotal study. So far, we've reached a number of technical and clinical milestones while remaining very capital efficient. And basically, the $3 million that we're raising now will help us complete our first-in-human studies and help us validate a product pipeline. And we'll be able to do that by raising this $3 million round. Once we raise the $3 million round and complete the clinical studies with favorable results, we'll then be able to raise a Series A, which will see us through de novo regulatory clearance. So in summary, what most startups have, they have a high unmet need that they're trying to meet. They have a great team. They have novel technology. But what makes our opportunity so unique is that we have all that. But y'all investors also have an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives, methadone patients' lives and their families, as well as in a national crisis, which is the opioid crisis. And with that, I think I took a little bit more than 3 minutes, but I did a little ad-libbing there. I hope that was okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, you're not going to get muted and yanked off the stage. Yeah, so thank you for that. Congratulations on your phase 2 SBIR funding. That's awesome. So I did see your ask. So this is about ask contraction. You have an ask, but you didn't, what's going on? Oh, there's retraction. Okay, so how is let me just start off and you can kind of tell the story the way you want, but how has your traction slide changed? How often do you change it? And how did you come up with this?
Essentially, whenever we make progress, right? You want to report on progress, and there's different ways of measuring progress, right? In our case, since we're still a little ways away from being in market and generating revenue, the way that we've elected to demonstrate traction is by listing funds that invested in us and accelerators that have vetted us and that are prestigious, as well as highlighting in the grant funding, right? Just to demonstrate that, yes, we're still early, we're still a ways from getting to market, but there's been a lot of validation that's been going on, and there's a lot more logos on here now than when we pitched at SDAC, because the only logos that were there back then was basically, I think it was the MTI one on the bottom left, maybe, yeah, and the Institute for Global Entrepreneurs. So those are the only two logos that were there. And everything else has come since. So you can see how much of a difference maker SDAC can be.
Things like you said, so without having a product that's available for customers to use, your traction is about funding, which tells a story of people believing in you, right? In the fund, like a non-dilutive grant. Is the product at a stage where you've been able to, you do a little bit of, I think you've put it on, I've seen it.
Yeah, so we're getting our product ready for first in human testing, right? So we've tested it on me, and sometimes depending on the audience, I talk about conducting N-in-1 studies, but really, we're not supposed to put this on humans yet, because well, up until recently, we just got IRB approval actually for our first in human study. So now we can put it on humans, but this is for methadone, right? So I'm not willing to take methadone, even though it's my company. But we talk about product traction and where we are with our product development and clinical validation. We talk about that as well, but not in our 3-minute pitch. In a 3-minute pitch, it's all about, because typically, when you give a 3-minute pitch, you want to illustrate the vision, you want to illustrate, you just want to differentiate yourself in some way, shape, or form, because chances are there's a bunch of other companies giving a 3-minute pitch. So what can you do to stand out?
All right. Any questions from our advisor investor team or comments about this traction slide? Or the other founders, because you guys all been working on traction slides. Or Randy.
Yeah, I mean, my comments kind of related to the use of proceeds slides. If we can, I think it was one slide forward, maybe. Oh, two. Yeah, I mean, I think this is really key for investors in terms of the milestones. I think the question that investors usually ask is, what do I get for my money in terms of where are you going to be in terms of data or revenue, and then how much money is it going to take you to go from there? And I have a background in finance, so I'm partial to essentially timelines with dollar signs on them. But this is graphically a super nice slide. But when investors ask you about use of proceeds, how much detail do you typically go into in that conversation?
Well, it really depends on where we are, right? When you're at the point, when you do a deeper dive pitch, if you go to 10 minutes or 12 minutes with Q&A, then clearly you're going to have to provide more detail than what we share here. In a 3-minute pitch, you want to keep it high level, where you can demonstrate your traction. You can also demonstrate that you mapped out the path where we're going at a high level, and that you have the key milestones outlined. And then if there's Q&A, then you can talk about the details that lead up to this, because clearly we have a financial plan that supports this and beyond, and we can talk to level details that investors are asking us. But in a 3-minute pitch, you really don't want to get into a lot of details. It's really more about, at least you demonstrate confidence, you demonstrate that you've thought it through, and then if people are interested in wanting to really understand the details and drill down, and then you go to that afterwards.
Right. Great, thank you.
All right, we have a question from Job.
Sure. Yeah, I was just curious on the traction side, and in a similar vein, I think to Randy, it's did you consider um doing this as some variance over time to show when these events occurred and when the future events would occur?
Yeah, you know, there are many ways of doing it, right? And I think over time that helps too. It doesn't really help our story when we do it over time. So um, yeah, but there's so many ways to do it. You know, as long as you do it in a way where the slide tells the story, it doesn't really matter whether you do it on a timeline or you do it this way or another way. There, you know, everybody. You know, we just had 9 companies pitch a demo day here at Cedars at the Cedars event, and every single company did it differently, right? So so there's no right way. I don't think. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Whatever helps you tell your story.
Do you get requests of like when is the SBIR coming through or when it came through?
Sure. I
When
mean,
are the clinical trials?
yeah, sure. We have all that, you know, all that. I mean, I've got it all in my head, and like you know, these first 4 grants, they're already finished, right? They happened from 2017 through early this year, and then the new grant that we just won, you know, started September 15th. So, so yeah, so you know, you want to make sure that you have all the detail either in your head or next to you, or you get back to people if they ask. You know, so as long as you have the detail to back up what you're saying, it's okay to be high level, right?
And
so
I guess
that was
just
actually a
final,
good- Oh, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
oh, sorry, yeah, just the final question would be like, if you could just elaborate on what are the follow-up questions have you heard, you know, most frequently, specifically related to these 2 slides?
I don't really get a lot of follow-up questions to this slide. Yeah, I don't really get a lot of follow-up questions to this slide. To this one, definitely it's all about regulatory clearance. What have you done to validate your path? How long do you think it's going to take? How much do you think it's going to take after you get regulatory clearance? So what's the total, you know, because investors want to know how much more dilution should I expect if I invest at the seed round, because, you know, angel investors, they're taking a big risk, right? Because a lot of this has not been de-risked or validated yet. And especially with a medtech device, and I don't know, you know, if anybody else here has a medtech device on the call, but investors they want to know, they understand that there's a big risk, but if this goes well and when this goes well, there's a big payoff at the end, right? And when that big payoff occurs, they also want to know, okay, I know this company is going to need more funding going forward. How much more are they going to need, and what should I expect in terms of dilution?
Thank you.
I mean, is there anything
We
else that you would add to that?
Me?
Yeah.
Anything I would add to that? No, I think that's a really good point. Well, there was 2. I was going to go back to the earlier point just to make sure that there is no one way to do this, to do your slides. I think I think the expression of how you express the ask and the traction slide really comes from where the company is currently, and where it's going and how much information you have or don't have, and it tells a story based on, you know, the uniqueness of your company. But what I'm also hearing is to not overcrowd the slide with a lot of stuff that maybe can be, depending on where you know, how long the pitch is and where you are in your relationship with the investors. But it sounds like less is more, and save some curiosity for questions and a follow-up meeting afterwards.
Yeah, I've seen entrepreneurs make mistakes where they try to put too much into a 3-minute slide deck to answer all the questions that anybody might have. And what I've kind of learned over time is put the things that put you in a good light and differentiate you, right? And then let investors ask questions about the stuff that that requires more explanation, right? Because then you can take the time to do it.
Okay, we have a few questions from the attendees, and so I think we have about 5 minutes left. So we'll start with Jeff Gottschalk.
Okay, hey there. Hey, Patrick, my question is more along the lines of your team and kind of building out your team. And was this something where you worked with a CFO and you knew ahead of time the line items related to who you were going to need, how many people, and what it was going to cost? Or was this kind of person by person and it was like a little bit more like as you went, you got one person after the next? Like, I'm kind of curious how you allocate, how you kind of like forecasted your financing of your team.
Gotcha. Yeah, so we were pretty fortunate because we started the company with grant funding, and so that allowed us to build a team based on sort of on a trial and error basis. Most of the people you see on this slide started out either volunteering their time or contributing to a grant proposal. We wrote them into the grant, right? And they started with us maybe part-time, and then over time they added value and we got funding, and then they moved into full-time positions, right? So it was so we had a financial plan that we built when we went out for our seed raise, but that we still at the time had I think we still had $1.6 million left in grant funding, right? And so we used that as a basis. We kind of had a pretty good idea of our run rate at the time, and then we built the team out over time, right? But they all started sort of as consultants, and then right now we have 6 employees, 5 of them are full-time, 1 part-time, and then everybody else that you see on the list. So we've got our board. Clearly, they don't have a salary. They're not they have shares, but they don't have salaries. And then, but the rest of the team, they're consultants, right? And basically, we use grant money to initially pay them, and then once we raise the seed funding, we're just very deliberate about not hiring full-time employees unless we feel they're a good fit for the team, right? And we want to kind of try things out first, because it's hard for startups because there's so few people, and if somebody's not pulling their weight, that's a full-time employee, it really hurts you. So
Thank you.
And next up, Danny.
Thank you, Amy. And Patrick, thank you for sharing your journey with us. Clearly you did well. You won the San Diego Angel Conference. And I guess, but my question is, whenever someone turns something in, they always think, oh, I wish I could have changed this. I guess my question is there anything, looking back, is there anything that when you turned it in or after you pitched that either, you wish you could have changed, or just suggestions for to be mindful of? I'm sure, a week later you had new traction, new milestones, but I'm curious, like, if any suggestions for that. Thank you.
the way, I guess the way we always look at these things is a learning experience. So we don't ever pass up an opportunity to be part of an accelerator or a pitch competition, or really any event where we can highlight our company, right? And sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't go well, right? But in either case, my goal is always to learn something and improve something, and try to actively solicit feedback. Hey, what do you think I could have done differently or better? And then you're going to get so much advice, because there's no shortage of advice, right? What you have to be diligent about and thoughtful about is what advice do you take, and why, and does it fit right now, or are you going to take that later? But I guess the guidance is always be open to learning, always be open to feedback. Don't always take all the feedback. Implement it. It might come from a good place, but it may not be right for you. But always learn, always try to adjust. I don't think I've ever presented the same deck twice. I mean, even right before this, I had a 3-minute deck, but the deck didn't have the SBIR grant in it. So I just threw it in there. And so it was the first time I presented this deck in this way.
Awesome. Okay, we'll do one more question from Mark Fortner, and then And then we'll let Patrick get off to his, hopefully you're going out somewhere great for dinner in Las Vegas.
There's actually a party at Dr. Dre's, so.
All right, Mark, keep it short. Let's see one more question.
Okay, so I was curious about your ask in you got a value there of 3 million that you're asking for, and so I'm wondering when you put that together, are you thinking, oh, I need this 3 million for, let's say, a 2-year time period? Those investors are want to get out in that 2-year time period, so this ask is basically to cover that time period. Or are you pegging this to, your FDA clearance? How are you estimating that?
It's a good question. I mean, you have to build your model in a way that that gives you a little bit of flexibility, right? And there are a number of things you have to take into consideration. One is, okay, how much are you going to need to actually do what you say you're going to do? And the milestones that we're tackling are very clear, right? First in human clinical studies and validating our product pipeline. So we have to have enough money to do those two things. In addition, we know it's going to take some time to do that, right? So we have an existing run rate. So we know that that it's probably going to take us through the second quarter of next year until we get data back, right? So we got to have enough to at least get us to June, but then you still have to raise a Series A, right? So you have to have enough money to then bridge that gap from the time that you have the data from the clinical studies to the time that you can raise a Series A, right? And our assumption was, hey, it's going to take us probably 12 months to raise a Series A. And so let's make sure we've got enough runway and wind in our sails to get us there. Because the last thing you want is, you don't want to be 2 months away from running out of money and asking for investments, because it just, investors are not going to have a lot of confidence. And if they do invest in you, you're not going to get good terms.
Right. Okay.
All right,
Thanks.
Patrick, thank you so much for the last minute response and help here. I think you shared some great information, and hope you have a great evening tonight.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me. And those of you on the call, if you have a chance, participate in SDAC, great program. And feel free to reach out on LinkedIn, happy to help. And by no means do we have it figured out yet, but happy to share what we've learned so far. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Great.
All right, next up is Tosh Dutt. Tosh. Oh, there he goes. Okay, so I will introduce Tosh Dutt. He was part of SDAC 3 with ChargeNet stations. Unmute.
Hey, sorry about that. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, quick plug about SDAC. ChargeNet would not be where it is if it weren't for SDAC, and I'm looking forward to participating in this next upcoming SDAC round. So just quick disclaimer, I am no longer with ChargeNet. I left to start another company that actually solved the big problem that came up while I was at ChargeNet. So this is for informational purposes only. Okay, so one of the biggest issues with public charging infrastructure is that there's not enough of it. Currently, EV public fast charging represents 11% of all charging that happens in the US today. And when you quantify that in terms of energy, it's about 1.2 terawatt hours of energy. By 2023, that is going to nearly triple to over 30%. And when you quantify that, that's about 18.2 terawatt hours of energy. So 18 times the amount that needs to be supplied to support all the EVs on the road. There's also a lot of benefits that ChargeNet's able to provide by putting public fast charging in quick serve restaurant parking lots. First, you have electrical infrastructure that already exists. You have second, you have a customer experience that people are already familiar with. Locationally, that every on-ramp and off-ramp across the US. There are amenities that are well maintained, which is a really big issue. And lastly, the time it takes to eat your food is pretty much exactly the time it takes to get enough charge to be on with the rest of your day. So we do this, we provide the solution by putting in DC fast chargers. So these are, high voltage fast chargers that will get you over 100 miles in 10 minutes, 50 minutes or 10 minutes or less. We also fortify that and support it with energy storage. Energy storage is very important because you can shift energy and load balance, and if it gets busy, you have energy that you can use for that. And sometimes we put solar where we're able to provide some benefit to the restaurant operator to lower their operating costs. What's different about ChargeNet's revenue model is that as a developer, we make a margin on every charging station that we build, but we also make SaaS and O&M fees on the software platform that integrates all the batteries and the chargers and the app that people can interact with to be able to handle their charging session. And then we also do profit sharing with the restaurant owners too as well, where they're able to participate in the upside as utilization of the charging station grows. So our team's changed a bit. So I'm not the CEO. Venus, who's the COO, she's the CEO. And Rebecca is left because she had a child. So granted, like all of us have had domain expertise. We're subject matter experts in the area. Venus has operated at SCE, one of the utilities, and has done several large projects and is an excellent CEO and stepped into the role very well. So we're able to prove that this business model works in 2022. Our first charging station started commercially operating in October of last year, so about a year ago, and that was 4 fast chargers, batteries, and solar. We established our first QSR partnership with Diversified Restaurant Group, and that has since blossomed into a much larger relationship. And we launched our software platform, so you can download the ChargeNet app, and when you go to a Taco Bell where we have a charging station, you can pay for and manage your charging session. So in 2023, the company's grown a lot. So not only there's a deal with Diversified Restaurant Group to develop charging stations at a few of their Taco Bells. It's blossomed into over 100 of Taco Bells, and the company's been able to leverage that with KFC and one of their largest franchisees, Burger King and one of their largest franchisees. And just a couple of months ago, ChargeNet was awarded the Ohio National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, and is one of a handful of public fast charging developers that's going to be building fast charging stations along Ohio's federal highway corridors. And we partnered with White Castle on that. So this only exists when you have strong partnerships. Like I said, Diversified Restaurant Group, RBD California, which is a KFC franchisee, and that's kind of grown to many more of the QSRs that they have, along with CB Restaurants, which is Burger King, and of course White Castle. On the hardware side, we have a pretty broad supply chain. Tritium is their fast charging hardware provider. Delta is their battery storage, and other partners. Charger Health is the OEM, and ChargeNet's been able to participate in several accelerators. Obviously, San Diego Angel Conference is where it all started. But Google for Startups, Lacey was very instrumental in Plug and Play. And our lead investor for our seed round was Line Climate Capital. That was a $6.2 million round with a $18.2 million pre-money, so $24.2 million post-money. And our technology is continuing to evolve, and is going to evolve to where you can now order your food and handle your charging session in the same app. Lots of incentives. That's sort of the story here. The investment, it's really fueled by the Inflation Reduction Act tax credits, and other state credits that are helping drive the cost of development down. What's also really exciting is ChargeNet's actually going to close the year on track. So they're going to have 4 stations operational by the end of the year. There are 12 in construction right now. There's 4+ QSR partners, and they're going to close the year with over $8 million in revenue. So that was foreshadowed really well. So in terms of the ask, so ChargeNet's going to start raising a Series A at the beginning of next year in Q1. Once they have those 4 sites operational and the other 12, it'd be a good time just because of the traction that they have. I think the terms of this round are going to change. It's probably going to be a little bit larger, so like 15 million. And they're looking for a lead to come in with 3 to 5, with the goal to close by the end of Q1 in 2024. Some of these, use of funds have changed too as well. So I'm not going to really. Some of them are the same, but I'm not really going to go over that. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thanks, Tosh. Thanks for going through that. So traction, of course, is an evolving thing. You have traction one slide, and then you get more traction, and you update your slides. So I remember and even in your initial traction was you came in, you had like partnerships already lined up. And then there was sort of like, maybe you can help me retell the story, but then the partnerships led to other, that sort of validates, more people believe in you, and then you get more traction. And so walk us through sort of how that evolved.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that there was a commercial pathway, because in order to scale, when you're doing infrastructure development, you have to have the right partners in place before you even stick a shovel in the ground. You're not going to be able to stick a shovel in the ground if you don't have that. And so I worked really hard very early on to find that partnership and find someone that was willing to pilot, if not, like just one site. And what I got out of that was this wonderful relationship with Diversified Restaurant Group, which, has since grown thanks to the team, where, instead of just the one pilot site at South San Francisco, they're building 6, and they have an agreement to build, another 100 in California. And then, sort of being able to leverage that proof of concept to other restaurant groups to demonstrate the value, not just on the, the development side, but also on the financial side. So yeah, it's that little bit of traction. If you play your cards right, you're a good partner, can blossom into much larger commercial opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And then your ask slide, which I think was, we just went over. Yep. So you have a little bit of, you got a little bit of deal terms, more than Patrick had. Maybe yours was a little bit longer. And then your use of funds, which we're not going to talk about, but because I know things have changed. But and so how has your ask changed? I guess every time you raised and you had a different ask.
Yeah, I think, prior to this, the ask was uh, having the funding to scale the team to be able to get the pilot done or the first site done. Where, this capital is more growth oriented, scale oriented. We're going from, the first 4 to 6 sites to now, developing the next 50 plus sites. And the other thing that I want to talk about that's not here is the project cap finance side. So not only did we have to raise equity for operating, growing operationally and growing the organization, but we also had to raise, much more money, like over $100 million to finance the 100 Taco Bells that we're going to be developing. So doing that kind of development with equity just is not feasible. And so it's much better to raise money from an LP that's willing to own those assets and pay us to operate it.
And so now when you think about your new startup, Electroflow Finance, and you're putting together your ask and your traction slide, do you go back to your first ask and traction slide from way back when you started ChargeNet, or what have you learned, or maybe is any similarities?
Yeah, if you don't mind, would it be okay if I shared that just to show you, like how
Sure.
kind of what the difference is?
Yeah, we're a little ahead of
let's see.
schedule, so we can squeeze it in.
Okay, so yeah, it's fairly similar. Like, I'm raising a pre-seed round to execute pilots. I have terms for the safe that I'm raising, the discounts, when I want to close, which I've not Q3's kind of come and gone. But then I think the most important thing is the use of funds and sort of being very specific about how I'm going to use the money and what that's going to achieve for Electroflow.
All right, we'll take some questions. We'll go with Job first.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember. I mean, I'm sure he did this a couple years back. But do you know how long this pitch typically was?
So my method for pitching is to not pitch off a deck. I'll share the deck with an investor, and then if they're interested, they'll set up a call. And when I set up the call, I talk for 5 minutes and then I shut up and then answer a bunch of, generally, answer a lot of the pitch is centered around like prompting questions from them that I know that they're going to ask. So that's just my way of doing it. But, generally, like it's timed for like 7 to 10 minutes.
Gotcha. So would you have always typically included multiple slides for traction, in this case, showing a slide for each year over time?
I think in that sense, we're raising, we're pitching to mostly growth stage VCs, Series A and beyond. Like, it's important to show that trajectory of growth so that they know, like, okay, you've hit these milestones, and now you're going to hit these next milestones, and really kind of give them the confidence to know that this next set of milestones, which is, I think, the bigger leap from like when you first start to like, from like C to Series A, when you're now going from Series A beyond to Series B, that's a much bigger leap. And so you want to give them the confidence that you're going to be able to get there by having met those previous milestones.
Gotcha. And did you get any asks about that Series A, that Series B, 2025, 26, what your projections were?
Yeah, and we have, like, we would share the financial model. I mean, we had a data room. I think a lot of the investors were interested in like 2024, 2023. Okay, what are your milestones? What are you gonna hit? And is that realistic? And then like 2024, which is sort of the big leap, which is now, going from like 6 to 8 site or 4 to 6 sites operating, 12 in construction, to going to like 50 plus sites in construction with like 20, 25 operating.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
So Tosh, one of the things I heard you say was something to the effect of putting stuff in there, that's putting content in there that helps drive the discussion with the investor, which reminds me of a little bit of like trying to control the conversation as much as you can. Any advice on that or further thoughts?
Yeah. So, you only have so much time. And when you have a half-hour call with a VC, right? That half hour is, a lot of times they show up late, like 5-6 minutes late from their last meeting. So you really only have like 20-25 minutes. And so, they've already seen the deck, right? So like the idea there is that you've already got them thinking and they already have questions in their mind. And so now what you're doing is you're connecting the dots, everything in between that's not said on the slides. But you're also not going into as much detail as you would if you were, like showing them, like in a 10-minute pitch, right? Like you're not going through every single fine point. And so it's so much better to just leave that stuff out because what they're going to ask because of what you left out. And it just makes it a lot easier to have the conversation and control the conversation, and give them the framework that they need to be able to go back to their investment committee or their GPs and make a decision about if they want to keep talking to you.
Okay, we have a question from Tom Shank. You can unmute, ask your question.
Thank you very much, Amy. Hi, Tosh. Thanks for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Tosh, I noticed that you were looking to raise money using a safe. Can you go over just briefly why you went with a safe versus a convertible note or some other kind of equity position?
So it's actually laziness, to be honest. Like when you do a convertible note, you have to do a term sheet, a promissory note, and there's one other document that you have to get done. The reason why safes are easy is because it's universal, it's very well documented, it's versatile. Like you can do safes with a cap or without a cap, and it converts the same thing. The other thing too is like I like cap table management software like Carta, which makes it really easy, and they've updated their free version to where you can now issue safes through their platform, and also have the money ACH wired into your account without having to do like this whole separate wire transfer thing.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's just like efficiency and laziness.
Okay. One last real quick. You said with or without a cap. What does that actually mean, please?
So that means the value at which the loan or the promised shares of common or preferred stock are going to convert at the first price round. So let's say your price round pre-money is like 6 million, and an investor signs a safe note with a 3 million cap. It's going to convert at that 3 million valuation, not at the 6 million. So they're going to be getting a better deal.
Okay. All right.
And there's generally a discount on the stock that comes on the stock price
Usually
that comes with that.
Usually about 20%, or
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Tosh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, we have a question from Riza. Welcome back, Riza. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate for presentation. I have a question. I think this is very smart that you said you will send a pitch and put most of the time for their question, to give them more time for their question and connect the dots. Do you think the pitch slide is sufficient for them to know what you are doing because you are reducing your talking points? Or do you also put some notes under the slides, or you send some text to them, or how do you do that?
That's a really good question. So I like to I like to put as many pictures as possible. You know, like putting a lot of data. Yeah, you want to put some information that they're going to read through. Like if I were pitching this deck to an investor, there would be a lot less words on here. But
Yeah.
because I'm emailing it out, like there's a little bit more context that they'll read through. Like you have to understand that each investor, like they see, you know, VCCs probably, you know, some see like 100 decks a week, or you know, 1,000 a month, like some of the larger institutions like Sandhill Road guys. But
Mhm.
like, you know, they're gonna spend 7 to 10 seconds like on your deck, or like maybe a minute or less, pretty much like
Oh,
7 to 10 seconds per slide. So you want to have like all the information out there for them to be able to latch onto, to understand like, okay, this is worth me setting up a call, you know, or having one of my associates set up a
yeah.
call and get more information. So, you know, it's I think putting a lot of notes in there is not really a good idea. I
And do you
think
think
showing
executive summary can help or no?
I don't see a lot of I my experience is that I haven't seen an executive summary help.
Okay.
Unless like you're working with an investment banker or something, like where they're kind of taking the burden of looking for investors to invest in your company. But that's a whole separate process, and
Okay.
I don't want to confuse everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, sorry, I was writing in the chat. So there was a question, maybe you answered it, about, well, I like the idea that I think you have lots of decks as a founder. You're going to have, you know, your 5-minute pitch, your 3-minute pitch, you're going to have all these different pitches, and then you're going to have the one you send, which has the words, and then the one that you present, which you don't want to have all these words because you're going to distract the viewer. And so there was a note in here, maybe do you include a presentation speaker notes in the deck? I think you answered that and said no.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think
And
it's they're not going to read it. You
you
know,
send it as a
like
PDF.
I sent it as a PDF. There's also another good software that's like, I guess, starting to get more commonly used, which is DocSend, where they click a link and you can get data on who opened it and how long they've spent on each slide. I did that for the ChargeNet deck, the last one, when I was pitching, and you know what I found was that most investors they only went through the first 3 or 4 slides, and they only spent like 5 seconds a slide. So um you know, and like they would call me and say, yeah, I went through your deck, and I'm like, you didn't go through my deck.
That's really interesting because I've
Yeah.
seen that too, where you log in, and I kind of like, I'm conscientiously like, okay, they know I'm looking at it, but I didn't realize they gave you all that data, which is really useful. So
Yeah, yeah, it's very useful. But PDF works best. It's the, you know, it's easy, it's lightweight,
I totally agree.
secure.
Okay, so we're gonna, if you can stay on for like 6 more minutes, and we'll take some questions. We have some hands raised. So Drew, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Tosh. Thanks for your time. I was wondering what 20% discount means. I don't know if these meetings covered it in an earlier class. I just joined last week, but I'm trying to understand this financial language of startups in funding better, because I don't really know what that means when I see that on your slide.
Sure. So basically, I'll put it up just so you kind of try and connect the dots. So basically, when you're a startup, you have common stock. Common stock is, you know, what founders get. It's what you give your employees. You incentivize your employees to earn as options, where if they earn an option, it's an option to purchase that stock at a certain price. Okay. When you are an early stage founder and you're trying to raise equity, a lot of times that stock has no value. It's at par value, which is like typically 1,000th or 100th of a cent. And so, you know, like selling that stock is not gonna it's not gonna have any value till someone puts some value on it. So, you know, what you can do is essentially get a convertible note or a SAFE, which is essentially a loan that incentivizes or provides certain benefits to an early stage investor that is willing to take the risk of, you know, putting money in your company in exchange for that stock for when it converts to you know, a price value. Like when an investor comes in and says your company's worth like $10 million, right? That they'll be able to purchase that stock will convert at a 20% at a discount. So instead of paying like 10 cents a share, they'll pay 8 cents a share. And also there's, in most cases, there's a sort of cap associated with it. And that cap is basically what the price at which it converts at. So even though, let's say an investor says that, you know, they value the company at 10 million pre-money, which means money hasn't been invested in it yet. An investor that came in early might have negotiated a cap at which it converts at 5 million. So, you know, they get a lower bar of entry, their stock is valued more, and they get a discount for it. Hope that helps. And there's also interest too, like that money that they're giving you up front, they're able to accrue interest on effectively the loan, the investment that they have until, you know, that price round happens and an investor puts a price on the company, a value on the company.
So like so somebody in a certain round invests and they have this 20% discount, when the valuation of the company goes up, they'll get if they want to buy more of the company, they'll get that discounted rate. They'll be able to buy more of the company discounted at that discount.
Well, no, they already bought it.
No.
It's a loan up front. So like, you know, the money, let's say an investor gives you $100,000, right? And, you know, as a convertible note with a discount and cap. And, you know, another investor, you know, a professional investor like a venture capital fund comes in, and they say, we believe this company's worth 10 million. That 100,000 is going to convert to preferred shares, which is a separate class than common shares, where they get sort of first rights of the returns on the company and the valuation. And so, you know, that 100,000 will convert to equity into stock for them. So, and they could get what's called pro rata too. So pro rata is where if they invest in one round, they have the right to invest in a future round, so that their equity isn't diluted.
And we're going to have on November 7th, I believe we're going to do corporate law basics with Brian Dirkmatt from Coeptus, and he usually covers term sheets as well. So we'll get to hear it all. We'll hear it again. It's a great explanation, Tosh. Okay, we'll do one more question from Christine. And unmute yourself.
Okay, so yes, my question would be, so there is for Tosh, but also for anybody else or investors who are like here, like, so we send those slides in a specific order. Usually it's suggested which order we should send them in, but I'm wondering if investors actually always go to one specific slide more often. And for Tosh, I was wondering if you have any idea what actually caught the eye of your investors when you email them. Because, you know, if they only spend like 5-10 seconds, like, why are they going to stop on yours? Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, I think so. The slide that I typically think that that investors like to land on is the traction slide. It's the slides that we just went over. So like the traction slide and the finance slide, and then I'd say, you know, like financial projections And then the last one is like, if there's a technology slide, that's another one. If you have software and you have like, you have like Figma screenshots of the screens of the software, like, that. So I'd say those are sort of the three. I'd say the sort of tail end of that's like the ask slide. Like they'll know by what stage you're in, like what whether they'll know first by what you're doing whether it fits their thesis. If it doesn't fit their thesis, they're not going to respond. And if it does, then they will. And then the other thing that they'll look at is this a check size that we typically write? So if the check size is too small, they're not going to, they may respond, but just say like, this round's too early for us, or the check's too small. And I've actually had investors like refer me to other early stage investors that invest in this, in the thesis, but write the check size that I'm looking for.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Tosh. We are at the end of your session. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with your traction and your ask slides and fielding all the questions.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for this great questions.
Next up, we have Jose Gomez from Fluid Power AI.
Hello.
There you are. All right. I'm going to move you to the top square on my grid. Do you want me to put a slide up for you?
I think I've got them, so it might be easier for me to just share here.
Okay, awesome. So Jose Gomez from Fluid Power AI, they came through SDAC 3 as well. This is when I was a fund manager. And so one of the finalists that received funding. So we're so excited to have you back. So floor is yours.
I appreciate that. And thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I take this stuff very seriously. I am a product of the SDAC, the Evo Nexus, the Connect, you name it, right? And so there is an incredible amount of support and resources here in San Diego that are really tailored to getting the job done, right? And to preparing. And so I've learned a lot, and I'm happy to share some of the stuff that we've learned. I'll do a quick introduction on kind of where we are and who I am. And then I'll do like a 60-second pitch, if you will, so that you get kind of a flavor. And then we'll focus specifically on the ask slide and the traction slide that I shared during those pitches, and kind of dial into some of the questions that I've heard already, right, asked here, and kind of try to keep that productive there, and then you guys can ask some questions. Is that fair there, Amy?
Sounds like a plan. Love it.
Perfect. Okay, so really quickly, 2019, my co-founders and I started Fluid Power AI. Vision was to disrupt, right? And our focus was an industry that was aching for disruption, right? Aching for innovation. So we are focused on taking the latest in, artificial intelligence, connected embedded systems, and deploying it to the industrial applications, right? Essentially giving these machines the ability to speak and providing plug and play intelligence to that sector. We started off with the napkin sketch. Francis and I and my dad started the company in 2019. We incubated out of Evo Nexus. If you guys have heard of it, it's an incubator nonprofit, works closely with SDAC, works closely with Connect and all of the other Southern California groups here. Through them really is where we learned how to raise money. I come from an engineering background, so mechanical engineering degree from Berkeley. Francis has a mechanical engineering degree from San Diego State and Washington University. And so didn't know finance, didn't know the finance language that somebody just asked about here, right? So for that, it was really about where is the material, where's the content, and we had some great resources that taught the classes and also shared that. A lot of it is online. with that, went off to kind of raise our first tranche of seed money, 800K. Early angel investors was about half of that, just friends and family. That was really our training wheels. Part of the incubator's directive was you've got to go learn to raise money from people you know before we can introduce you to people you don't. And so raised about 400K from first-time angels, and then another 400K from actually very seasoned tech angels that were kind of domain, experts, if you will, and invested in the space. All of those came through direct introductions from the incubator or the organizations. We ended up raising it, I believe, like $1 million from the Connect kind of lunch and learn that they did with some of the SDAC groups back in 2 years ago. And so took that company there. A lot of deep tech. So we control our hardware, we control our software, we control the AI, and it's all kind of homegrown IP built there. And so we truly had a napkin sketch. And so kind of what I want to share with you here is I'll kind of go through the deck we used to raise our second tranche of, it was about another 800K and then 2.7, I believe. So total, we raised about $4 million of angel and early stage startup funding. And then we got a $4 million strategic investment from Procon Analytics at the end of last year, which we're kind of going through right now. So let me go ahead and share this. Let me know if you can see something.
Yep, I can see it.
All right, so Fluid Power AI is really to keep the equipment you see here from breaking. Hydraulic power systems really power the world, right? They're essential, every major market, and really are responsible for the growth that we had in the last, 150 years, if you will. First and second industrial revolution technology that hasn't innovated much. And in fact, it doesn't have the incentives to do so, right? The OEMs that design the components and the hydraulic technology are far removed from the equipment OEMs who kind of put that together into a machine. And then the real important part is that it's the operators who have to maintain and kind of upkeep these systems. And with hydraulic systems, they're very complex and they're cheap to produce, very expensive to maintain. And these operators, they don't have the technology or the equipment to properly assess, root cause and identify the failures. And so our technology is really to provide plug and play intelligence to stuff you see on here. So you've got a hydraulic system, summarized for you on the screen. You need a tank to store your oil. And then you've got a pump that will circulate that, kind of like your heart, right, through some valve. And then that will direct the power to either hydraulic cylinders or motors to, pick up a crane or rotate some sort of motor. Interesting part of it is every one of these components is, consumable. It will wear and requires maintenance. And our system is the plug and play solution for complete coverage of these hydraulic systems. So we put what we call system heartbeat in line here. It installs in about an hour, hour and a half on pretty much any type of hydraulic equipment, be it a trash truck or a concrete mixer or a big mining piece of equipment. And with that, we can tell you the health status and provide, actionable insight and predictive prognostics for each of the components that are on that system there. What we've done that's different is, again, we control kind of the edge processing, and we've enabled it with a true deep learning algorithm that encodes physics and not feature sets or problems. And so that allows us to have these rich embeddings that can be used for downstream classifiers. And so what you see here is very analogous to what you have now in natural language processing and what we've seen, with the chat GPTs, if you will. So you can imagine that our technology enables, pieces of equipment to talk and to receive the insight in order for them to order their parts or, schedule their service. And so again, we can go on any piece of equipment. We create kind of plug and play solutions for these. Here's an example of the system heartbeat that goes on the Komatsu 930. This is the largest mining vehicle in the planet, 700 tons fully loaded. And the hydraulics are responsible for the steering, cooling, brake cooling, as well as the big hoist on there. And our technology uses, a fusion sensor cluster. All of this proprietary. We have IP for that that covers both our algo and the edge application into fluid power. We have a machine interface that allows us to extend that tech onto pretty much any piece of equipment, and then a main processor where we can deploy edge processing and wireless communication. So on the right there, it's basically anything your iPhone can do, this guy can do for machines. Now on that raise, we were raising $2 million. This was a $15 million pre-valuation. It was a convertible note. So as some of the other founders have described, all of our funding was on convertible notes. We were actually advised not to use safes. They were kind of a hot thing coming out of Silicon Valley with Y Combinator. They are very founder friendly, but does not include some of the protections that a convertible note has for the investor. I was a first-time founder, napkin sketch kind of guy, right, with some IP, and so our advice was, you're nobody yet until you're somebody, and so we opted to use strictly convertible notes. Our first convertible note was $800,000 on a $6 million pre-valuation. Our second convertible note was another $800K on 8 million valuation, and then at the time we were raising an additional 2 million on what we were looking to take a 50 million pre. And the use of funds was going to go to extend our pilot expansion onto municipal, regional, and national players, as well as to break out into some new industries. I didn't tell you this, but we started out in trash. So we picked the ugliest fight, but we're able to make any trash truck intelligent, and we can provide that same value to natural oil and gas and mining equipment, as you've seen in that deck there. A lot of the deployment of this capital was to reduce the hardware costs. So again, we built everything ground up, machined and circuit boards, everything here locally in San Diego. And so making sure that we could scale was critical to us. So bringing the manufacturing, Mexico, China, we actually ended up doing Taiwan, and some of the electronics packaging and mechanical design for volume was key there. And then, ultimately expanding to the iOS and Android as opposed to just a cloud application. In terms of our traction, we call this our proven execution slide. And, at the time, again, napkin sketch, right? So Q1 of 2020, we developed a pilot, proof of concept pilot, and worked to deploy that with ETCO, which is one of the regional refuse players here. And we had to qualify, build this out. And so we actually used our initial 800K from our seed round to fund that and, build our first initial sets of hardware. Along the way, we backed that with another 800K, which we called our seed 2, that came at a higher valuation, 8 mil on that one and 6 mil on this one. And then ultimately, we were using this to raise our bridge, which was that $2 million. But overall, really what we're trying to do here is demonstrate that our traction involved a lot of R&D and hardware. And that was a big issue for us, really. So if you're an investor, you want to invest in software, right? It's got less risk, no inventory issues, etc. And so the capital cost for us to develop some pretty deep tech, right, on the embedded cloud and AI side, it's a pretty big risk for most investors, especially if you're, you know, going out for first-time angels or somebody who's specifically not in that space. Now, our solution is a hardware-enabled SaaS platform. And so every month, right, the inside then provides a monthly service fee that allows us to kind of monetize that in a SaaS manner where, you know, the cost to produce that, it becomes a lot more like, you know, the 80% margins that you're looking for in a SaaS business there. And so one of the things we wanted to do was show that we could get to that SaaS level quick, right? And that we could overcome a lot of that development and production. And we actually did a really good job. It's one of the things we were known for early on, and that investors liked, was our ability to develop deep tech, you know, products in a kind of professional and ready to go way. And so in this slide, it's really about kind of you know, demonstrating that we could execute on the qual testing, on the builds, and that we could do it while we were raising money. Because that's the other thing about raising on a convertible note is you're going out to raise $2 million. The guy who gives you the first 20K, right, holds the biggest the risk there, if you will, if you can't finish off raising the remaining money. Because with a convertible note, you kind of start spending it as it comes, right, as you close that. And so being able to show that we could build and develop, raise money while we were doing that, and kind of bring in our schedule was key for us.
Hey, Jose, can I just jump in with a few questions
Please.
while we're on the slide? So I'm a timeline person, but I always preface, there's no right way to do it. It's an expression of your company. But what I'm noticing on this slide is you actually have like product development, funding, and hiring. Do I have that right? Is that what we're seeing?
Yep.
Three kind of parallel streams all overlaid on the same timeline.
Yeah. So I agree with you. It's very, very tough. It was hard for us to do this. And so it gets really hard when you're trying to do all of this on bullet points, right? For example, it gets even, you know, 10 times tougher. And so for us, you know, you asked the question of like, you know, how easy was it to get to this slide and how many times did you iterate, right? This particular slide, I think was like the core focus for weeks, right? On, you know, from my end as the CEO who's out there pitching and you know, saying something, the idea that a picture is worth, you know, 1,000 words kind of, you know, a deal there, and being able to have a graphic that, you know, could combine all these things was tough. Colors, right, and kind of that space. It was funny. We would laugh about, you know, this is what it takes to build a company, you know, be able to move shapes around and, you know, make it different colors and have a visual there. But yeah, the being able to put all of that content on one timeline and making it kind of, you know, meaningful was something we thought a lot about. And, you know, I don't think this is, you know, done, but it definitely worked for us there, and we've continued to evolve ever since, really making it more, you know, how can you tell that story through a picture?
Yeah, and your slides always looked like very aesthetically pleasing, and you did them yourself, right? You didn't farm it out.
Yeah, so that's a good question. When we were at the incubator, I saw there's a company they were called the Good Face Project. I think they might have rebranded. I'm not sure if they've come through this particular program. But she had the prettiest pitch I've ever seen in my life. I was happy just to hear her pitch, right? And I remember thinking about how impactful that was to me. And at the end of it, it was like, oh, I'm not really sure I know, like, or care what she did. I just remember that was a good one, right? And so it was after that was maybe like my third week at the incubator. And so we asked her who kind of was her initial layout, and we hired somebody in Brazil, kind of freelancer, who created the, like, this is how it's pretty, right? And got us set up there. And then for me, I knew I was going to edit it, thousands of times, and I couldn't be on the phone with her. And so really what we hired her to do was can you make me like a scalable thing, right? So what's the brand, if you will, right? And kind of a brand manifesto of like, hey, if you're going to use icons, you use them like this, and pictures this way. So it enabled Frances and I to then sit down and kind of really come up with stuff like this, right? Post her initial icons and direction there. But yeah, making it pretty was a big deal.
Awesome. All right, we're going to take some questions from the attendees. We've got Scott Rappaport. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thanks, Amy. So I see on your timeline you've got your 2 seed rounds posted, and I'm kind of thinking a lot about the time between raises and how much buffer you allow yourself. Could you kind of speak to your thought process on setting those dates?
Absolutely. It isn't something that we set because we wanted to. It was really about the circumstances. So if you look at when we started raising money, I think it was 2 weeks before the COVID shutdown here in the United States, and it impacted capital for a little bit, and so the direction that we initially set out to raise a $1.5 million kind of seed 1 round, right, to give us that time to develop, that time to execute and gain the momentum. The direction we got is, hey, it might be hard to put together 1.6 and raise on 1.6. So this is Marco Thompson at Evo Nexus. He's the president and our advisor there. He said, look, you split that round into 2 and you offer the first 800K a better deal. And so that is what cost us to do a $6 million seed 1 there. Which essentially meant, these early investors were getting a bigger discount than the next guys. And so that was actually really successful for us, right? We were able to execute. One of the things that we had to do was execute with those 800K. So I think after our first 80K, we had a full kind of embedded PCB developed, and we had a pilot running with Edco on some initial units. So it wasn't my favorite, to be honest. I wish I could have had, a bigger buffer. You spend a ton of time raising. And so when you look at this up here, right? So each of those seeds comes with, 3 month or like 2 month kind of raising there. And so, yeah, it was really tight. We're constantly raising, constantly building, constantly developing and deploying, just because I had to. I wish I didn't have to, but is where I was.
Thanks, Jose. Appreciate it.
Awesome. And we have a question from Riza. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I think this slide is nice, and I had a feeling that the way you are playing with the, let's say, yellow color, but you are having an icon in the top to say this period we did the development for scale. So, and what would be the easier way to explain about the bridge? Because you had that bridge right before that development for scale. So how did you, presented that one to the people that you were talking to?
Yeah, no, great question. Great question. I think it goes to the previous question here, and kind of captures the problem I had at the time as a CEO founder. I need a lot of money, right? And I've got to kind of tranche it up. And so for us is really being able to present that, hey, we've raised successfully while developing deep technology, and we have traction, in being able to qualify and get working hardware that doesn't blow up, right? Improves the value prop there. And so really this pitch here goes into this particular ask, right? This bridge here of saying, hey, we're going to go and raise this round here before we do, a large series A. Just as a quick heads up, we ended up raising about $2.7 million. That bridge /A there turned into a $2.7 million investment. Some of that came from SDAC, some of that came from Okapi, Longley, and the Cove Fund as well. And so use that and raise another $4.8 million from Procon Analytics at the end of last year.
So any part of that was from the first 2 seed or no? Not any of those investors?
Yeah, good question. So for the seed 2 and bridge had a lot of seed 1 investors buy in. Pasadena Angels had a rebuy in as well. So we had some funds that took the 800K and the bridge. But yeah, one of the first thing I did was reach out to everyone who's been in every one of the deals and, try to put together a story that shows the traction and the fact that we can get there.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good job.
All right. Thank you, Jose. Thank you for sharing your slides and your story and fielding your questions. And
Sounds good.
Yep. And now it's party time. It's not all just engineering and tech and science, but we do have a food and beverage from First Light Coffee Whiskey. We've got Ryan Espinoza, who is on, there he is.
I think
Welcome.
I'm here.
How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing, Amy?
Good. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
You were SDAC 5.
Was it 5? Yeah, it wasn't too long ago, a couple years.
No, that was last year. No, it's 4. You were 4.
4. That sounds right.
But that was very COVID also.
Yeah, yeah, very COVID.
Coming out of
times.
COVID, but we did a site tour up in Oceanside. So I always thought this was really exciting. So I can't wait to hear your pitch or any updates. And so the floor is yours. Welcome.
Cool. What's going on? And thank you for having me. So yeah, we're a little different than let me see if I can get this slide going first. Than everything else you guys have been hearing. Let me see if I can get this shared, and then I'll just give an overview of where we're at, and then I'll go through a little bit of the pitch, and then just kind of give you perspective on how things have changed, and take any questions. So let's share. Okay, do you guys see the pitch full screen there? Yep. I guess no one can respond, but yeah, okay, great. Yeah, great.
Starting to share. It's still black.
Still black.
You've started. It says you have started screen sharing. Maybe. Oh, now it's nothing.
Yeah, I'm trying to start again.
And we'll take this to about 7:30. We have a 10-minute break, but we'll kind of reread the room, see what kind of questions people have.
Okay, that should be going there.
It might just be slow. We'll give it a little bit.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, that loads up. Yeah, so we're First Light. First Light Craft Spirits is the company. Our first product is a coffee flavored whiskey. We started here in San Diego right before 2020. We really kind of started it, self-funded at first, and then got some friends and family, and then an initial angel that got us to about, I would say, 100 to 200K, and then this last year in 2022, after, I think it was right after SDAC, around that time, I got private equity in it for 750. So we've raised just under $1 million so far. We have a good amount of sales here. We've launched throughout California, as well as a DTC, direct to consumer online channel. And it's an interesting time because right now I'm actually expanding horizontally, and we're raising more money to expand into 8 new states, so new markets, new opportunities, and also a new product. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into the pitch and then show you guys kind of how our traction's evolved.
We can't see it.
Is it not?
Don't, if you can email it to me and I can share it. I don't know why things are.
Let me try just sharing it this way instead.
Okay, now we're seeing stuff. All right, you're good.
I'll just do it this way. Yeah, let's go. How's that? Good.
Yep, looks
Use
good.
that. Okay, let me see if I can hide everybody there. Cool. Yeah. So we're First Light Coffee Whiskey, and just a brief overview of how when I'm presenting, I usually send a deck to an investor I'm going to meet beforehand, and then I like to discuss and go into depth with things on the phone. So other than like for pitch competitions and things, I'm not really giving a pitch slide by slide. I find has been much more beneficial to actually send a deck ahead of time and have like a really kind of interactional conversation with somebody face to face rather than walking through slides. So First Light Coffee Whiskey, our overarching model was that flavored spirits are stuck in the past. So in the category of flavored spirits that have cheap sweeteners and artificial ingredients and really a disconnect from modern lifestyle branding, we've come in to disrupt that product, and we created a lifestyle spirits brand, beginning with our now I think like 14-time award-winning product, First Light Coffee Whiskey. So we're a smooth coffee flavored whiskey that can be enjoyed neat, on ice, or mixed into your favorite cocktail. We locally crafted up in Oceanside. We use real coffee extract and organic agave nectar as our sweetener. We're also family owned and a 1% for the planet company since day one. So being sustainably minded and giving back is a real big part of what we do and who we are. The market opportunity in this industry is huge. In 2023, for spirits, you're looking at $87.6 billion in the U.S. Market alone, and it's expected to grow annually by 6.2%. Flavored whiskey, that subcategory, has a higher growth rate of 22% continuing annual growth through 2025. And a case study right out of our own backyard here in Ocean Beach with Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, founded in 2018, sold over 1 million cases by 2022, and recently sold a part of their company exceeding 500 million. And their former CFO is on our advisory board, so we're positioned to really follow their track through the market. The story so far, where we're at now, we've expanded throughout California through Total Wines, Ralph's, on premise at Breakfast Republic, and throughout OMG Hospitality Group. We've grown 2.5 times annually over the past couple of years, over 50 on-premise locations, and really focusing on large chain retails. So really what's next for us is we're looking at 8 new markets. That's going to be Q1, actually, not Q4. It needs to get updated. 8 new markets in Q1. We're looking at over 12,500 cases throughout 2024 and over 1.1 million in gross revenue. Now, since our launch in 2020, it was right before COVID. COVID has generated a shift in consumer preferences that opened a hugely profitable horizontal expansion opportunity for us specifically. So this is the rise of the canned cocktail. So here's to the day. We've been testing at events and developed our First Light Espresso Martini that we've infused with reishi mushrooms, and our First Light Skinny Session Margarita infused with reishi mushrooms. So we're bringing this to market as really leaning into being positioning as like the day drinking experts. So we're bringing forth like a low caffeine, low alcohol beverage that can be enjoyed throughout the day. We're expanding our brand value horizontally to help us grow beyond just the coffee segment, as we've really cornered, with the coffee whiskey, the brunch and coffee drinking segment. We want to be able to expand our market base and consumers with a canned cocktail. One of the big market shifts is that, throughout stadiums and on-premise locations, typically pre-COVID, you were seeing about an 80 to 20% sales for like draft beer and mixed cocktails and cups. And since 2021, 2022, that has flipped the other way. So you're seeing really just the rise of everything in cans and the shrinking of everything in cups, kind of across the board. Now, the biggest advantage too for us with having a can that costs, you know, $10 for a 4-pack is that our customer acquisition cost is much lower, and we can increase our lifetime customer value by bringing people, introducing them to the brand at a lower price point, and then growing with them over time with people that mature to buying a 750 milliliter bottle that they'll have at their house to mix their own cocktails later on. Market opportunity for cans is huge, 10.6 billion just in the past 52 weeks in spirit-based RTDs. I won't go too deep into this, but if you look at some of the data you get from the alcohol industry, you know, you're looking at coffee cocktails as something that's really trending up. Yeah, traction and execution, what we talk about here. So, you know, this is similar to the slide that I used to raise the 750 round that we did, just with a bit of timeline and different, you know, different data. But essentially, I'm tying in our quarterly revenue to our sales models, and then just breaking down specific things in our distribution, in key checkpoints for what we're doing, like expanding into new markets, or, you know, launching, you know, canned cocktails, new states for distribution, specific presentations for large chain retailers like Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. Those things come up usually once a year, so you have to plan that stuff out ahead of time. And then really tying in our revenue with our sales model according to, you know, all those different checkpoints. Our team is awesome. It's really the strength of our company, myself, you know, CFO, CMO, and then all of our production and sales partners there at the bottom. So for us, we have 3 full-time, which are the 3 of us at the top, and then everyone on the bottom are production partners. So Nicholas Hammond runs our partner distillery, which is in Oceanside, called Pacific Coast Spirits. Nick Gagliardi is our sales lead. He has a full-time sales team across the country. They help brands like ours scale and actually provide in-store tastings and really good data-driven and data-backed sales for spirits. Sean Hallman, who was with CFO, PR, and then influencer partnerships, which is really huge in our industry. One thing we're doing right now is, you know, celebrity partnerships and co-ownership programs where people buy in, they come, you know, they get a part of our company, and they actually then promote and, you know, push our brand out into the world. This is details. So again, if I'm emailing this to somebody, they can dive deep on a couple of these topics. Then of course we do value comps for like what the exit looks like, where we're trying to get to. And that's really it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, we have use your use the digital hand raise button if you want to ask a question. It'll put you in line. We're probably going to ask about your traction slide. You had lots of parallel themes going on there. I do remember. When we had you want to share that so we can
Yeah.
I remember when we did our tour, you were concepting around the canned cocktail, and I think you made us one, you know, at the bar, something that you guys were thinking about. So it's great to see the forward motion and see where you guys have landed today.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the cool things, how that kind of happened organically was just that, you know, we were doing so many live events where you set up our booth, and we're doing tastings, and we were making draft cocktails. Because like there's so many people want to taste the spirit straight, but it's nice to have a cocktail option. So as we're pouring like from nitro kegs, like we dialed in our flavors, and like that was such a constant in the feedback and people hitting us back up on Instagram, like, hey, how do I drink that? Like, how do I find that cocktail? Like, you know, how do we do that? And so we had kind of the demand ahead of time. And so as we, you know, I've already been circulating this with our investors. I mean, they've all had that cocktail too. And like people were just like stoked. They want that. They want to be able to open and drink that in their hand.
Yeah, you put something out in the market, and then you've got to be like listening to that feedback, right? Like where are people wanting it to go, or
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I came before spirits. I was in the tech space. So like when you think of like test-driven development, and like getting a product, if you got a, you know, digital product to market when it was perfect, it was like too late as you want to get things out and like get user-driven feedback. it's almost the same with some product like this. You know, you really got to get it out there and get that liquid to lips, as we call it in the alcohol industry, and get that feedback and get that buy-in and like understand like what the market is looking for. And, you know, if it's a product that people are going to hit, and if it's not, you can obviously change things and you know, move quickly.
All right, so we have a question from Jordan. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Good, good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of similarities in our businesses. I have a CPG product as well. I do adaptogen infused coffee and tea and other wellness products. We've actually met possibly before at maybe an Almost Naked event. I do a lot of event type marketing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, with Lee, right?
With Lee.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess my question is, it's really refreshing to see a food product that has been able to get some traction and find some investment, because you do get kind of faced with a lot of like, what's the software, what's the tech play, and what's my 100x exit.
Yeah.
And so I guess maybe my question to you, first off, I would love to connect with you maybe outside of this so we could have a longer discussion. But I would also curious as to how you kind of found the right investors for your products.
Yeah, so dude, yeah, good seeing you again as well. Let's definitely touch base. I don't know if you caught it in there, but like I'm doing adaptogens in the cocktails.
I did. I know that's so cool. There's
so like,
a lot there.
Yeah, yeah. So that's awesome. We should definitely connect on that. Yeah, man. Honestly, so alcohol is hard to invest for in San Diego. Like none of my investors are from San Diego. No one were even close from San Diego. So like my big ones are like from Chicago and LA, and like Orange County. But even that, like a lot of people in the space are getting investment from Texas, from even Bay Area a little bit, New York, Chicago. San Diego is a tough one. The overall just, I guess, proposition is like, you gotta just advocate yourself, because how I met like my initial angel, who actually was from Orange County and ended up, he like knew Yusuf, who founded Cutwater. So he's kind of, you know, in the space a little bit, but it was from kind of people meeting people, and just like, you know, people were trying my product. Like I was out at events like you were at, I was at different things, and you know, someone called somebody who tasted it, and then like, yo, I know someone who might be interested. They email, like you follow up, and then they send you to someone else. And it's kind of like peeling back the layers that way. And the interesting thing, I guess the unique advantage I had was the product itself was like kind of ear catching. Like people are like, oh, what is like coffee whiskey? I've never heard of that. It was on the heels of Screwball. So like there was definitely interest from people. And then from that, it was just like following through on things, you know, sending people samples, like feeling willing to have those conversations.
So it wasn't exactly like pitch competitions or necessarily like LinkedIn.
No, I mean, I think we had an opportunity here from SDAC. We ended up going with private equity to just match what we were trying to do better. Pitch competitions are great though. Like this stuff is amazing to dial in what you need, get questions answered. And there are for sure networks to penetrate here. But as far as for alcohol and CPG in our industry, like everyone I've kind of talked to, I kind of know all the founders in this area, and like most of the money is coming from elsewhere, because you know, more of the money in San Diego that they're comfortable with is like tech, right? Yeah. So you gotta, and so you gotta like make those connections and find stuff. I know for a fact, it's a funny short story that one of the initial like layers that led to my private equity round last year was like I like carried on a case of whiskey to my friend's wedding in Colorado, because like they wanted it, and I was like, cool. And then I gave it to their bar at the wedding, and like it was like 100-person wedding, and so they were pouring it at the bar, and I got a follow up like months later from somebody in Florida that's like, yo, you were the guy, you remember we met? I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, I have like a cousin or something, and then it just like kind of spirals out. So yeah, bring your stuff. People want to try it.
Sweet. Do you mind putting your email again in the chat really quick, and I can touch base offline?
Yeah.
If it's easier to read it out loud, I can do that too. It's whatever is clever.
Yeah, you can do Ryan@drinkfirstlight.com. I'll just toss it in the chat. Pretty easy.
So we're trying to form, I know there's food and bev in the audience here. So I was chatting with the logistics team that helps us put on the Zoom, Taya and Steven, about making a breakout room just for food and bev. And so if you guys are food and beverage, you want to do breakout, because Ryan said he would stay on for that.
Yeah.
Put it in the chat and we'll see if what we can do with Zoom.
For sure.
I don't know if we can like put some people in one room and randomly distribute the other. So you guys, any questions? We have 5 more minutes with Ryan and then we'll figure out put your food and bev in the breakout room. So I remember one of the big questions was picking up distributors. And so does it matter,
Yeah.
Ryan, if you have if you start with one type of a formatted product and then switch to another, will your distributor represent? I mean, I guess if I'm a distillery if I'm going to sell the bars, does it matter?
Yeah, so alcohol specific and distilled spirits are specific compared to beer or anything like that, or even NA spirits like that. You could, like wine, you could, for instance, like set up a shop online and have a subscription model, because you could sell direct to your customers. With distilled spirits, there's actually like legacy laws from Prohibition to where we have this 3-tiered system. So like if I make it, I can't sell it to you as a customer. I have to sell it to a licensed distributor, aka like used to be the mob, and then they have to sell it to a retailer, and then the retailer has to sell it to the customer, right? So everyone gets like 30% along that chain. So if you're able to sign with a distributor, like we signed with RNDC, who's one of the largest distributors in the state. What it does, it opens up doors, because all your accounts have accounts with that distributor to then purchase from. But there's also a challenge, because like RNDC doesn't like care about us, because they sell, the majority of their money comes from selling like Jameson and like these major brands, right? So their reps don't really sell our product. So then there's this dilemma of like, we have to have a sales team, but like they can't take orders. They have to like sell the bar, but then communicate with the sales rep for like RNDC to like place the order. And so there's a lot of learning curve in that. And it's a management of people, and it's like really is a relationship-based business more than anything when it comes to like bars, restaurants, and on-premise. But I'm trying to tap into something coming from like e-commerce and digital marketing and like media buying, Facebook, YouTube ads, and all that stuff, to where, the new laws of sorts since COVID have sort of unlocked more of an ability to do direct to consumer and like be able to actually kind of track some data and like get your own customer data and build your own email list, to where, we can sell. The idea is we want to sell products direct and like build that lifetime customer value and like add in like merch lines and different products and be able to like control more of that as opposed to like having the distributors and the retailers, own all of that data.
Yeah. Yep. You want to have some control. All right. So we have another question from Tom Shank. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Ryan, thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah. Hey, Tom.
I've got a real basic question. When you meet with somebody and they said, yeah, we want to give you $100,000.
Yeah.
First of all, do you have an opinion about safes versus convertible notes?
So I was, similar to, I think it was Jose that was last, but yeah, I mean, safes was the Y Combinator thing. Like I like them, but I ended up using convertible note because like the investors that are, it depends on like, your investors. If they're not as savvy, especially if they're not in tech, because like that's where like safes are used, like they're used to debt, and convertible debt. So that's why we ended up going with convertible debt and convertible notes, because like the investors that we were with, just like that's what they were comfortable with.
Gotcha.
And I have a good legal team. I use Gunderson Detmer, so they like do all of our legal and can draft all that. And we went back and forth a little bit on that stuff, but yeah, I would, I think whatever vehicle that your investor is comfortable with, that's how I kind of go with it. I offer both, both options, and
Oh, you do? Okay. In other words, you don't lead with one. You say, I got door number 1 and door number 2.
Well, I used to lead with the safe, but I found that the investors that I was reaching, at least for, alcohol and like CPG, were like they were very different than like I was with a fintech app in like, 10 years ago. And like people then still like knew safes. Like it was just like a different different type of investors. So the investors I'm working with now just didn't know that. So then I just was like safe/convertible debt, and everybody was just like, all right, well, we want that.
Okay, all right. Here's a real simple, basic follow-up. When somebody says, yeah, we're going to give you $100,000 and you've agreed as to whatever vehicle you're going to use.
Yeah.
How do you help get their money from their bank to your bank? Very simple.
Simple wire instructions, ACH info, calling them on the phone and once they sign and your lawyers sign off on the term sheet, it's just wire the funds. Yeah.
Okay. All righty.
Yeah. And and don't be, at first, if you've never done it, it's it might seem weird to ask, you might feel hesitation, but it's not. It's yo, cool. When can I expect the funds? I'll send over the wire transfer, or even more so, it's here's the wire info. I'll expect those on Monday or something like that. Be willing to be assertive in that, but don't be rude, but be assertive.
You gotta ask the order.
You guys have an agreement, you're the CEO, you're the one who they're trusting to use their money and make it grow. So yeah, be that person.
Very good. Thank you very much. That's helpful.
For sure.
Yeah, I have to agree that, even when we through SDAC, we wire all the funds to the people who, the companies who receive them. But I've even read, try to get an ETA on those funds. Okay, great. You're going to fund me. You're going to send me the money. When should I expect that? Because sometimes it doesn't show up, right? I've heard weird things.
Thank you.
So, okay, we are at the break time, and me and the team are scrambling to figure out if we can. We were going to randomly assign everybody, but we would love to be able to maybe create themed breakout rooms and have you be with your peers. And so if we're going to do a 10-minute break, we'll come back at 7:40. But before you go, if you want to just say what kind of industry you're in, we're going to do our best to make this happen. But one of the other things we're doing at the Brink is we have these industry roundtables where we have them by industry. So that's more intentional as well. So we're going to do our best during the break. I see the chat is already lighting up. So we will go ahead and take a little break, and then we'll meet back here at 7:40. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Let's see what's going on here. All right. We're all texting. We're going to do our best to get you in impromptu themed groups. So thank you for what you put in the chat. So it looks like we've got about, some people dropped off. The breakout rooms are really great. It's gonna be peer advising. We're gonna assign some of our team to moderate the group. So I think we have, let's see, Taya, you want to help me out here? Taya actually was like a wizard with reading the chat and then putting them into groups. So Taya,
Yeah,
there you are.
no worries. So right now I have 6 rooms. We could add a 7th, but I have biotech, health, food and bev, software, fintech, and e-commerce or marketplace.
And
I
you
know we're missing a few.
Your biotech and health is separate.
Yes.
All right. And then SaaS would go into software. Because some people are SaaS, it's a marketplace. So why don't we just do that? And I think people can move around to rooms if they want. Oh, the other thing is we actually have a worksheet. Sorry, I forgot about the whole point of the breakout. We have a worksheet. I got so like enthralled with organizing people. Let me share it with you guys here. What we want, the purpose of the breakout, and you can do whatever you want with the breakout, but what we'd like you to do is chat about can you see this? Your traction slide. So there's a worksheet that kind of helps you walk through to think about what kind of theme you want to show to display your traction. Some questions you can answer through the slide. And so to the worksheet, Stephen will share a link to the worksheet in the chat. Take a look at it, and then you can start sort of discussing it in the breakout. And the breakout is going to be you're going to get from 7:40, we'll close the breakouts around 8:15. And so halfway through, start the breakout, you can each go around and talk about where you are with putting your traction and your ask together. And then halfway through, maybe some peer-to-peer advising and discussion. And we'll give you a little prompt, but really you can kind of let that discussion go wherever it takes itself. So any questions before we get started? We're gonna just run with it. All right, so Taya is gonna put breakout rooms. You'll see that pop up on make sure you're full screen so you can see these. There was a breakout room button, and so she's going to put rooms in there. Oh, there they are. And so then you just click on the room you want to join, and we'll see how it goes. So have fun.
What does fintech mean?
Financial technology.
Okay, thank you.
And then our advisor investor folks, if you want to find a room to join, and then the Brink and FEI team will kind of round it out just for observation and moderation, moderating the dialogue.
For those of you who see the rooms, can you describe that for some? I don't see it on my end because I made them.
Oh, you don't see them?
Well,
Okay.
I do, but I can't see them the way that you all see them. So,
well, we have biotech. There's 5 people. Health has 4. Food and beverage has 2. Software has 6. FinTech has 2, maybe 1.
Where can
Marketplace has about 7.
where can we see the rooms? I think a lot of us are just seeing the pictures on the screen of
Oh,
us.
so go to the bottom of your Zoom, the bottom where you would find chat and share screen. You should see something called breakout room with like 4 squares.
Oh, I think it's under more. You have to click on more, and then there's 3 dots and breakout rooms for everybody who doesn't have.
Looks like we all have a different interface, but if you can find it, if you still can't find it, let me know and we'll explore that.
Looks like fintech's probably pretty small, so we can also make a.
Because fintech can be a SaaS or software. Sometimes it's like what kind of, it's like there's industry and then there's like kind of the platform you're using, technology. And so sometimes those, like you can have a technology in all of the industries, like a SaaS in every industry, or hardware or software. But he can find it. He wants to move, he can move.
Is anyone unsure where they would like to go? Great. Okay, so for those of us who are helping moderate too, you can join one and.
For anybody that hasn't joined one, you can assign them. If you're a host or a co-host, you should be able to just assign them. So I would get people assigned somewhere.
All right.
And then Tay, I guess if you do want to make me a co-host, I'll just travel around to the different rooms. That way I can move around when I want to.
Yes, you are.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Taya, for pulling this together.
Yeah.
You were wicked fast.
Yeah, good job.
I hope it worked out. And I think we're Robert and a few people in the room. Maybe they're not here at the moment.
Robert Park I put him in biotech. If I'm remembering what and Ru Kwan sang. I could miss, might be, I've got my memory, but yeah, just randomly, and then they can figure it out. They're probably like stepped away. They're not back from their break or whatever. Okay, I'm gonna go and join, and then we'll be back at 8:15, and then we'll close it out.
Great, and I'll send out that notice in about 6 minutes.
Yay, thank you.
There, real quick, is there a specific one you would like for me to join?
You should do food and bev.
Okay, sounds good.
Family business.
And this gives us a good sense of who's coming to the meetings.
Definitely. I'm wondering which one I should join. Maybe. I'm
If
not sure.
Amy's in biotech, there's no one in health.
Sure.
Or then there's no one in e-commerce as well.
Do you want to take one? I can take the other.
Stacey, are you here? I'm just thinking I might stay here and help people if they navigate back to the main room and need help.
Sure. Okay. Well, then I think I'll go to e-commerce just for now and go from there.
Sounds good.
and they can choose based on the investment style, the metrics, and the historical performance. And they pay a monthly subscription fee.
Hi, I'm Mitchell. I'm building online digital badges for authentication. Essentially, we could power a marketplace, e-commerce as well, so it's a platform play. Yeah, and I'm currently crowdfunding, and the company is called WebBadge, webbadge.com.
How are you doing
Nice.
your crowdfunding, Michael?
Mitchell, I'm
sorry.
doing it.
Yeah. Can
I'm
you
doing
share
it
about
through,
your crowdfunding?
yeah, I'm doing it through WeFunder. So they were one of the vendors there too.
Yes.
At one
yes.
of the sessions. Yeah. So WeFunder, I created a profile on WeFunder, and then I just have it on my website.
Have you launched that already?
Yes, I have it on my website. There's a link to it at webbadge.com. You can get to it through there.
Do you want
So
to
it's,
each put like your websites in the chat, maybe?
oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. It's,
I don't know if it goes to the group or.
Hey, I
does
have
it,
my
cool.
I have my traction / stage development slide pulled up on my computer. I don't know if there's a way to share it with the group and get feedback, or if we even have time to do that.
Go for it.
Is that what we're doing right now in this group, kinda, or no?
I think to be able to share, you have to be the
Okay.
host. And I don't know if they
Oh,
make
yeah.
the host. Yeah, you have to be able to control the room.
Well, I could read it. I don't know, but it's kind of it
Yeah,
probably might
reading it.
take
Let's
like
ask.
Maybe do like
Should I-
3 points, the 3 main points.
Oops.
Give me a minute then, because I'd have yeah. If I just tell through the first 3, it would be a very incoherent picture. Because I have like 6 or 7 on here. But
Usually, how much money you have raised so far, if you build the MVP, and what is your next ask?
I don't know. That's not even on mine at all for track. But I didn't use a model for traction. I used a template that my brother sent me a couple months ago. I think I did this in May. Yeah, so I don't have that information on this particular slide. But because mine, the template I had said to do key performance indicators. Did anybody else do that for traction?
Same.
KPIs?
Yeah, it's the same.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can read. Let me read a couple. I honestly haven't even looked at this in months, to be honest, but I'll just try and read a couple. So for key performance indicators, fabricated and built the first embodiment of light drums with on this, glory to God, on this version of lighting drums. Use this working prototype performance at professional. Let's see. I give thanks be to the Lord Jesus Christ. The second embodiment of lightning drums was created in 2017. A working prototype was also fabricated that has been used in major professional entertainment venues, like Park Nightclub, private events at the San Diego Zoo. Lightning Drums has had, let's see, 2019, Lightning Drums had an official meeting with a major drum company, DW Drums. DW Drums gave Lightning Drums one of their acrylic drum sets. They asked Lightning Drums to conduct specific research and development to get Lightning Drums ready to go to manufacturing. DW Drums said that when Lightning Drums finishes this research and development, to bring this new version of lightning drums to their factory in California. Drum
Okay, that gives us an idea.
lightning drums to DW Drums,
I
who
think
will
that's
then make a
good.
decision of whether or not they would like to work with lightning drums. Excuse me?
Yeah, I think that's a good, that's some good steps. Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay.
Anybody else want to go? I'll just say, Drew, if a company is asking you for you to go do research and then bring it back to them, you want to be careful with that, because that's usually not the case. You know, that whatever research is done belongs to you, not to another company. So just, you know, just do a little bit more research into see how that would work, because that sounds really weird to me.
Well, why does it sound weird? They don't want to invest their money into the research and development because I brought them a working prototype that that needed they wanted me and
Okay, I got it. I misunderstood. Sorry about that. I got it. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate
Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sure,
Who
yeah,
else
no
wants
worries.
to share? Thank you.
Carmen, I'll go. Thank you. Yeah, so just very briefly, so the milestones that we've hit, well, not all these are milestones. I think, well, would funding raised be part of the milestone, or what do you think?
Definitely,
Okay.
because when
So-
we tell an investor that somebody else invested before them, that shows that we already have credibility and trust. So it's
Right,
huge.
right. And I know that bootstrapping shows commitment. So I'll just throw it out there. Basically, we have $200,000 in bootstrap so far by the founders. We have a SEC approval for a license that they very rarely give. Took many months to get that. It's a robo-advisor license. We have a strategic partnership with Interactive Brokers. They're like a $20 billion company. And we have about 3,000 people on our wait list. And we have users in a closed beta environment. And those are kind of our KPIs for now.
Well, 3,000 people waiting for your service is huge. Congratulations, Danny.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's great.
So if someone else wants to follow, yeah.
Christine, can you tell us your
Yeah, I was thinking about it. If you wanted to go first, Carmen, you go.
Oh, I already shared.
Oh, okay, I missed it.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll just share real quick then. So we raised 150,000 from family and friends. We got our patent, our trademark. We built our MVP twice. And we also have our first catalog of products, which you can see on our website. So we are ready to go to market and prove concept. And now we are raising our seed round for 600,000.
Okay. Okay, why did you build the MVP twice?
Because you always have, updates.
Oh, so it's like, okay.
Like food and bev and alcohol are emotional sales. Like 100% of your deck is like you're not there to tell them all the details of like the complicated process and how you're innovating something, because like even as innovative as my product was, like it's whiskey, like it's a combination of two of the most popular things on the planet, like coffee and whiskey. But like what it is, it's like you're selling your investor on, like you're getting them excited for something that they want to invest in because they're like excited on the opportunity, they're excited on like the future, and they're excited to be a part of something, right? So for the people that invest in our brand, it's like they typically like the idea of owning a part of an alcohol company, like being involved in the story, like having that association. And the big rewards at the finish line, there's like celebrity, there's like all these things that that people get wrapped up in that help them sell. And even if you're doing like functional adaptogens, no alcohol, it's like the adaptogen effect is like very massive. I mean, it's like that inspirational
you know, that David Goggins stuff, super popular all over the internet, right? You're like inspiring people to like be better at themselves and like, and succeed at all the things they're doing. So those are the types of things like in your deck and in your conversations, like that you're selling them on. And the thing that worked really well for us in the process was, like I said, I would just send a deck to whoever the prospect was. And then in Carta, we now use Pulley, same thing, but they have something called the data room. And then I would essentially like put in my financials, put in like all the executive summary, like any documents, like we had like 8 documents in there. And then after I sent the deck, we had a good conversation. They're like, yo, what's next? I'm like, go check out the data room. That's going to answer any questions you need. And then let's talk on this day. And so instead of me having to send it and like having them all this thing, it was more like, here's all the potential resources that you could, if you want to look at like our 10 spreadsheets for financials, like do it. You know what I mean? Here's everything you need. And then, you know, have your accountants check it out. Like, then I'm out of it. And it's like hands off. And then I'm just following up and we have a date set and like, yo, like what's next? Here's what we're looking for. And it goes from there. And that seemed to be like because I've done this a lot and that was like the smoothest way to work with people. Cause then it's like, no, you're not waiting on them asking for certain things. And then it seems like, oh, I forgot something or like setting stuff. It's just like, yo, everything is here. Go have at it.
Yeah. Can I ask really quick, before you got your, what I think you said $100,000 investment, what traction did
what
you
got that?
Yeah, and what
Product
to convince them?
I had them taste it. We made it and it was just there was nothing. It was just liquid, you know.
So you liked the product.
He was like, all right, dude. So liquid. Yeah, and I mean in alcohol or anything that I'm sure CPG, it's like,
yeah,
unless you're like genius and pitching liquid death where you don't have to taste it, you're just like brilliant marketer, you know. Taste it. You know, liquid to lips is like what sells.
Yeah.
Somebody tastes something and they like it, you
it's
gotta
like with a lot of these tech companies that you know I've been hearing at some of these things or investors talking to them, like they're interested, it's so financials based, which I mean they're investors, it makes sense, but like they want to see like, unless you are, for example, there was one guy who was like, we look at companies that are already doing about $1 million in revenue and have a 100x exit potential. If you do not hit that criteria, they're not interested. They don't care if it tastes good. They don't care if it's emotional. And that may not be every investor, but that has been some investors that I have come across. So I'm just trying to figure out like, I haven't done $1 million in revenue. So what traction would appeal to someone that maybe isn't trying to give me, 7 million but something like 100,000, 200,000,
yeah. So that's going to be your angel investor. And like, those are people you're not gonna, those are people that they're gonna be that emotional sell and they're gonna invest because of you. That's the number one thing. Like they invest in people. They're gonna invest in you and they're gonna believe in your vision, right? And so for us it was like the liquid was delicious and he liked the liquid. He invested in myself as like a person and just through the relationship that we built. The answer, because seeing us do this. Oh, you're muted, Amy.
All right. When Stephen joins the room, the recording goes. Stephen's our program specialist. Maybe you've interacted, you've received your pre and post event emails from him. So.
Thank you, Stephen.
Absolutely. Always happy to help.
So who do you guys all, are you pitching? Do you have an ask slide, an attraction slide? You're working on it?
Working on it.
So for me, I've been kind of working on slides and I did work on like I just submitted to an accelerator, so I had to put together a pitch deck for that. But I also have an NSF SBIR, and I guess the big thing for me is for their phase 2, they're very interested in you have to have real letters of support And so that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm in aerospace, not biotech, but I think it's kind of similar in that there's a lot of long lead time and lots of regulations and things like that before you get to market. You can't really make an MVP, and sell it to the first couple of people. But I would say that's the thing that I'm really struggling with, is how to even find people this early before we have a prototype that would give me a solid letter of support to try to get to, which is what I need to get to the NSF phase 2. I think they want 5. They want 5 actually, but they want investors, and I've tried to talk to investors about it a little bit, and some of them, at least the person I talked to, said nobody's ever even asked me for a letter of support. So I'm not totally sure how to approach it right now.
Got anything, Mark?
Well, yeah, going to conferences is killer. I mean, you can meet, dozens of people every single day. I mean, like you can easily meet like a dozen people or more every day that you go to a conference. And if it's a 4-day conference, that's a lot. Yeah, I think you go up there and you just, the way you do it, I think, is to not look like you're some kind of guy from sales department or whatever. You go there, you're just like another colleague, just like everyone else there to see the science and see what's going on. And as you do that, and you're legitimately watching the scientific presentations too, but then you're talking to them just like a colleague, like if they were at a university or whatever. And it's just a very natural interaction that you can form, and then you can have the whole thing about explaining what you do briefly, and then because what you're doing is so unique and so needed, they're very interested to talk to you, and you can just build a relationship there where you can then obtain some letters, or that's basically how you got to do it. And I think it works like a charm. You just got to be out there and be outgoing and natural, and not act like you're the sales guy. You're not. You're really a scientist at heart, and you're there to make the interaction and make the proper combination of we have this that you need. You don't tell them they need it. They tell you they need what you're providing, but you're asking the questions to find out what they're needing, and it just so happens what they need is the thing that you have, and that's how you make that interaction.
Do you present at conferences? Like, have you been submitting papers and things like that? Or just...
Not with this company. I've submitted, of course, papers in earlier positions and conference talks, but I haven't presented for this company yet.
One thought about the LOIs, letters of intents. So, I mean, for people that are not, I mean, I don't think any of you guys would be unfamiliar with LOIs, but LOIs are letters of intent that are non-binding contracts, right? So they give you letters saying if and when the product will be ready, we would buy them, right? But LOIs are powerful when they have specifics in them, right? Like you can just give a letter, signed letter that make it look like a document, a signed document. But if you have specifics in there, that gives it more power. And one of the things that I found out from my personal experience is the date, right? Like you can put an amount saying, oh, we're going to buy this product for a certain amount. That's great. But then if you add more specifics like dates, that sort of put a constraint on you, right? So let's say, in the LOI that they give you, Hari's going to provide mRNA, within the next year. So that puts a lot of pressure on you to deliver it. But the neat thing is, if you don't, if you can incorporate some language in there saying, well, if we don't deliver it, we will, extend the timeline as to when we would, deliver the product and things like that. That's I don't know. I don't know if anyone else has any input on that, because the lead times can be long in biotech for developing any product. So, you know.
How does that work if, let's say your customer has budgeted something, 100K or something for your particular product during the next year, and you fail to hit that window, that usually the budget disappears and they have to go, they need to go reallocate it and argue for it the next year if they can't get it.
Right. I mean, you constantly have to be in touch with the customer. If there's a delay in developing product, you just talk to them, come up with a meeting and then say, hey, can this be flexible? I know we set a date, but if we can, there's going to be some delay, it looks like, but we're on track to developing a great product. If you say something like that, most customers are agreeable to things like that, right? And they would be willing to extend the deadline. But again, this even though it's a semi-legal document, it's not considered legal, right? It's not binding. So it's like if you fail at all, the worst thing that could happen is they don't get the product delivered, and you lose some credibility with that one customer. But if you have like, I don't know, 20 customers or something like that, it should still be okay. But we wouldn't want to get us to that stage. We constantly want to be in touch with our customers.
So do you deliver sort of interim products? So where, let's say you might have something that it has 70% purity and you're trying to get 90% purity, and that's your goal. Ultimately, that's what you need to deliver to the customer. Do you try to build milestones into that so that you can deliver something in the interim and maybe get paid for that?
Right. So, I mean, the minimal viable product can be delivered. And what that is should be, it should be explained by you, by me. And, I want something that's better than what's already out there, right? Even if it's slightly better, and if I have confidence in that product, I'll talk to the customer and say, hey, this is not the product that we said we would deliver, but it's still better than what's out there. So would you be interested in trying that? And again, most customers would be willing to try something like that. But what you don't want to do is, ship out something that's inferior. If I say our mRNA is better, I better deliver something that's better, right? So you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by delivering something inferior, then again, you'll lose credibility.
I think NSF specifically, they do want specifics in the letters, like you said. I think if you submit something, from what I understand, it just says, hey, your technology is cool. They won't credit it for anything, right? It has to be like, if you meet this milestone, we'll buy 20 units or whatever it is. But that's kind of how I understand it. So for phase one, I did have letters of support, but they were more along the lines of companies that just said, wow, that looks neat. And it was sort of people I knew. I mean, I was able to get the contacts of those people I knew from the industry, but they weren't really that great in terms of support. I mean, they were like, if you could develop this technology, that would be nice, but it wasn't like, hey, we're gonna buy 50 of them or 100 of them.
Right. I mean, see, you only need those kinds of letters with the specifics for pitching, when we're pitching to investors. For NSF, they don't require you, right? Like, I mean, we write grants as well.
They really do.
Really?
Well, I think there's different streams of NSF, but the one I'm in is where you can pitch anything, basically. And for phase two, they kind of treat it like investors, and you have to have a strong letter of support and a business plan and all that.
Yeah, so we're at the phase one now, so I can see how phase two grants can be tough, because it's like $1 million and plus. So there's a lot more that we need to do for that one. Good luck, Byron.
Oh, thank you.
I think our breakout rooms are supposed
Okay. So one of the things that you can do, this is for everybody. If you go on YouTube, you can go and find the last 3 San Diego Angel conferences, the last 4, I think, Angel conferences. And if you just skip to the pitches, you can look at, and these are probably the best things that we could share with you, and they're publicly available. You can actually go and watch a bunch of companies, so we're seeing 6 or 7 of those every year. So there's, 30 or so that are available. And if you just skip through, I'm not suggesting everybody go watch each one of those because they range in time from like 2.5 to 3.5 hours. But if you just go to that portion of the presenters and go to those, last couple of slides, that's probably a good way for you to get to look at as many as you'd like. Sorry, go ahead, Amy.
Oh no, I love the advice. So yes, thank you. And we have, this is what, 6th year of SDAC. So we have amassed so much information and knowledge that, evergreen, it just keeps on giving. So I hope everyone enjoyed the breakout room. We tried our best to find topics. We'll get better at this. We've got a few more. Next week is going to be in person for that pitch deconstruction. So I hope to see you all there. But then we'll have more Zoom. Zoom kind of lets you do that breakout room that you can't. There's kind of a really cool thing that Zoom does. So anyone want to raise their, I said we have one, Drew has his hand raised, but anyone want to raise their hand and talk about anything that they learned or some key, anything that you want to share from tonight? Go ahead and just raise your hand and we'll go through the lineup here. So Drew, go ahead and unmute yourself. What do you got?
My question might be a little bit off the topic of tonight. I was gonna ask about, I've heard people mention stuff about a 3-minute pitch competition. Then I had one other question. Should I ask those or should I wait? Maybe?
You got the floor, go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna ask, should I be getting a 3-minute pitch of because I have a pitch deck that's done. Thank God. And I feel really confident about it. And I would love to do a 3-minute pitch though, if there is a competition for that, I would love to be in it. And I also wanted to get some good feedback too, because so my instinct is I think that, so after the SDAC conference, last year, I thank God for having that door open, for Missy inviting me to go to that. She allowed me to set up a booth there. I had an angel investor reach out to me and email me, and they asked me, there's a guy from New York, and he asked me for my pitch deck and for a term sheet. And I didn't have it. I had like a physical pitch deck that I put together years before that, but I didn't have one digital and that was up to date. So I said, can you give me a week or two? And I put it together. And I felt really, really good about the content of the pitch deck, but I didn't, the term sheet, I looked up what a term sheet is on Google and tried to put something together. And I didn't feel very good about what I put together with a term sheet. And unfortunately I worked I sat at a coffee shop all night for a week or two, getting this ready for this guy in New York. And I sent it to him and then I never heard back from him. And so I just, I just want to make sure that my house is in order and that I have everything as well prepared as possible. Next time, God gives me an opportunity and has a door open. And I was wondering if we might go over term sheets and in the course.
Yeah, so good question. So first you asked about pitch competition, then term sheet. So the pitch deconstruction. So there's 4 of them in this 4-month e-track series that we're doing every Tuesday night. We've already had one. There's one every month. The October one is next week. And then of course, the one in November is the one where the organization that's funding this whole program is going to be there. And I want you all to come. I need you to come. And it's going to be electric, right? It's going to be really cool. So I'll put that aside. Let's talk about next week. Next week is a pitch deconstruction. you come prepared to do 1 minute pitch on the stage with no slides, which is just
Okay.
easy to do 1 minute. Then if you want to do 3 minutes, then you need to have your 3 minute slides ready and you need to be ready. But we're going to vote. Everybody, like all your peers, Misty has the little stickers on the butcher paper and everybody votes. So you may or may not make it. So do your best. Like it's a little bit of a like you're on stage. So that's how that works. And if you get voted, then you do the 3 minutes and then you get like the investor feedback. So which is like, if you got to be ready because they just want to help. We all just want to help you. We're all about driving economic impact, making everyone succeed. So that's that. Your second question about term sheets, right? What are term sheets? We don't have law degrees. So we have 2 ways to handle that. We do have one of our series in November is called Corporate Law, Legal Corporate. I got to bring it up. It's in November 7th, I think. And we're going to have Brian Dirkmatt from Coeptus. He's one of our sponsors. He's awesome. Like he works with New Fund and he's a really good, works with founders just like yourself that are new. He'll talk about corporate law, which includes how do I start my company? Do I have an S Corp, a C Corp, an LLC? Do I do a SAFE? Do I do a note, equity? He's going to cover all that. So, and then the other thing is, I know you're a Brink client and we have someone on one of our 15 fabulous Brink advisors. One of them is Natalia Pence, and ask your advisor if you could meet with her, and then she can address your questions. And then we also have another legal sponsor that has office hours every month. I think there's one coming up in a couple of weeks, and you can get a 30-minute time with them. But you can only do it once. You can't keep back for free legal advice. They make a list. So make sure that you do it like you're ready for it.
Be ready. Okay.
If you can't find on the internet stuff.
All right. Thank you so much. One quick question I really appreciate everything you just told me. Thank you so much for your time. And I was wondering I guess 2 small questions. Is it the 1 minute people compete in a 1 minute pitch, and then the winners of that get to do the 3 minute? Or
we all vote. Yeah. Like, yep. See, I see people shaking their head. They did it last week. Or last time. Everybody so if you want to, you do your 1 minute pitch. You can do your 1 minute pitch, and then like, I don't want to do a 3 minute pitch. If you don't want to do a 3 minute pitch, still do your 1 minute pitch because you need to do it. And it's good. If you do a 3 minute pitch, your 1 minute pitch, and you want to do a 3 minute pitch, then you put your name on the public voting thing.
Okay. Is that on Zoom or is that in person at USD?
It's going to be in person at USD.
Okay, rad. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
We're all friends. We're here to help each other. And so it is.
So if I do the 3 minute, I could like play a video and some slides.
If you
like
did
a short video, like a video clip.
Well, your slide deck would have a link. You'll send us your slides. We'll project them. And then if you have like a little button that works in your slide deck that takes you to a video, then the video can be played.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So
appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Anyone else? We got 5 more minutes. Anyone else? Q&A. I will continue to remind you, please come next week. It will be in person. And then Misty is sharing the worksheet that she put it together and we sort of zoomed through it really fast. But do check the chat for this worksheet to help you, we try to help you organize your thoughts. You saw the timelines, there's different ways to do it. There's no right way. There is no right answer until you get money. And then how did you get funding? But there's no right way, but we hope we showed you different ways that you can address it. And so this worksheet will help you organize your thoughts. Next week is in person pitch deconstruction. It's going to be at USD and the 5 and the 8 over there. And in the Manchester Hall, in that auditorium where we were the last time. If you were there, you'll know. If you weren't, register for that, and then you'll get the email from Stephen with the instructions for how to get there, how to deal with parking, how to take the shuttle, or you can walk. And he puts signs everywhere to help you find your way. So you guys all should go. Even go if you should do a 1 minute pitch. This is a safe space. We're all getting to know each other. You need to do it. If you don't want to do it, it's okay, but you should still go and watch other people do it. Any questions? Anyone else? Put your little hand raise, your little button. You got another one. She's got another one. All right. Come on, you guys. He's hogging the time. We'll let you ask your question, Drew, but I want other people to ask.
I know. If anyone wants to go, I won't take it.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay.
They're gonna
I
queue
was
up
wondering if the person who wins the SDAC and they get approximately $200,000, is that money from like an index of investors? Because it sounded like it was maybe from like 30 to 50 investors. Is that correct, or is it like 3 or 4? And if they get that, does that person have to be in communication with that index of investors about the business?
So it's a PPM. So it is a fund that invests in you. So all like 60, we get about 65 accredited investors that buy an investment unit, pool the money, then the investment is I have to use invested. We're not just giving you money. You're going to get an investment.
Yeah.
And it's one line on the cap table. So you don't have like 65 people. You got to like track down in Tahiti to sign whenever you have something to be signed. So hopefully that answers your question. Good question.
So do you have to like communicate with those 65 people though, or like, is there like someone from the school that
you're going to get? There'll be the fund manager. We've done it several ways. There's a fund manager, or we'll assign a lead person of the investor group to be in communication with you.
Okay.
So you always want to have the point person. Who is my point person?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always a good thing to have.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Danny, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Hi, Amy. How are you? Thank you for organizing this. So one question, and this is in regards to next week. So I remember for a 1-minute pitch, what are the essential slides you recommend? I know each person has a kind of different thoughts, but just off the top of your head, for someone doing a 1-minute pitch, what essential slides do you recommend?
Yeah, so 1-minute pitches is no slides, right? You just stand up there, like spell bee, you're in front. Yeah.
Which topics, like problem, solution, like in other words, what main categories broadly?
Yeah. Well, Misty has her 5, like technical solution, market opportunity, team, and then an ask. That's 4. Maybe she can put them in the chat. So if you're just completely lost, like now
business model. Sorry.
Business model.
I'll put them in the chat too.
Yeah. So now you can ask ChatGPT, like write me a 60-second pitch. Here's my stuff. I mean, because sometimes it's always easier to edit than to start from scratch. So if you're like, I don't even know where to get started, then like I just go with this sort of like format templated thing. Like, if you like write 2 sentences about the 5 areas that Misty's going to put in the chat, but then I want you to like weave it into a story. Like I always like, my thing is like, turn your back to the computer, like stop looking at things that are controlling you. And how would you if I just ran into you, if we're watching our kids play baseball or in the checkout line, what would you say? Like practice that, because that's the storytelling part that is more interesting than I have this kind of company. This is the problem we're solving. This is my business model. Like start that way, but then start technically as a technical description, but then craft it into something that makes me interested. Like, wow, what are you doing? And like the more creative you can get, because sometimes it's, like, tell me more. Leave me with like, whoa, time's up. Well, I want to hear more. So,
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Garrett, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Amy, for running the show today. I had a question. I have a friend that I would like to invest in something. He would like to invest in something like this, SDAC. How do you recommend I get them to come to the investment section, or maybe like, is there one thing that they could check out that would be like almost like a trailer or something like that? Do you have any suggestions?
Yes, they should go to the SD Angels. One of my lovely assistants put that in the chat. There is an invest tab. So if you're an accredited investor and you're curious about what is this all about, and I don't want to like lose my fortune just to find out. I want to like baby step to dip my toe in the pool. That's what SDAC does. So they should go to the SD Angels, THESDangels.com. And Misty will, yep, there she goes. She's got it in the chat. And then that kicks off in January. So there's a lot of time, and they can come to these events. They can come and watch, kind of see what's going on. So good question. Thank you.
You can also, I'll just jump in here real quick. You can also make a personal introduction to me. And we always treat those like we put on our white gloves, and we are really careful with those folks. And we do a lot of extra. So where you see us sort of disappear towards the end of the process is because we've turned our attention to the investors. And so we do a ton of one-on-one meetings, you know, just answering questions again and again until people are comfortable. Like we'll treat, if you know somebody who's potentially an investor, we'd love the intro, and we promise we'll take really good care of your relationship.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep, that's true. She does, but she will meet one-on-one with all of them. I will always be here for you. I'm running the break. I'm all about the founders. Missy's going to take care of the investors. So we got it. We got it all covered. All right, we're getting to the end of our time. We'll take one more question from Victoria. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Just so it's kind of a two-part question to piggyback off of what you guys were just chatting about. So is it only opportunity for investing for accredited investors? There's no buy-in for non-accredited? That's the first part of the question. And
so the simple answer is yes, they have to be accredited.
Okay.
The more complex answer is the SEC definition of accredited investor changed in 2019, and people can earn their way into the accredited investor process, which means they have to spend a year working with a fund so that they have a good understanding of the risk. We can provide that opportunity if somebody's willing to give us a year and volunteer, and we'll put them in behind the scenes. We're actually working on how we're going to do that this year. To help unaccredited investors earn their accreditation through that new part of the definition. With this caveat, if you are part of a company, if you're raising money, if you might be raising money, if you have a startup, you can't, that doesn't apply to you. We just never can get it fully separated, no matter how much people promise that they can keep it separate. You just can't. And that's not, and then for us, it's really, really important that we provide this super safe space for the investors to learn and grow and not feel like, oh, we actually have a bunch of founders sneaking around and trying to, you know, have conversations on the side.
So you can't receive funding and also be part of the fund. Can't do both.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. The other question I had was in our breakout sessions, one of the advisors or people in the breakout room made a really great suggestion to show advisors about making traction, and they recommended getting letters of intent, LOIs, from potential customers. So another thing that I had thought about is I actually had started, there's a button on my website, and I have a type form that I created. So it's basically a sign up sheet of people that want to beta test the product once it's been created. Can that be used interchangeably in, I know it's not the same thing as like an LOI, right? Because that's an actual legal agreement, but does that hold any weight with investors having like a waiting list of people wanting to beta test this product?
Yeah, I mean, showing traction it can be as, let's call it soft or like very established. So waiting list is like, you know, and you tell the story, like I've got people, we actually had, remember there was Uplift that came in and they had this little engineered device to help people get out of bed that were immobile. And they were sort of pre-selling it, and they put this ad on Facebook, and they had a whole list of people waiting. They had a wait list. So wait lists, that shows interest, right? How many people actually come through and buy, right? But to show that you were able to actually get people to get on a wait list is pretty powerful. So you want to get as much, anything to show that people are interested as possible.
Okay.
I'm sorry, there's another question?
No, that was the question. I just didn't know if that held as much weight as like a legally binding like LOI. Or I mean that's
an
not
LOI, that's right. An LOI is not it is not a contract.
Just a letter of intent. Yeah, you're right. So
yeah,
it's kind of the same thing essentially, like signing up that you.
Yeah, we talked about that in our breakout room because we had someone in the breakout room did a really good job of getting these LOIs, and they essentially said this company has identified a big problem. We see this problem, the way they described it, essentially, if this was what they produced, we would totally be interested in something like that. Of course, they didn't write it like that, but that's the gist, was like, if this was what this problem they're solving is something we are very interested in buying. So that the LOIs can be a little soft. I mean, the soft is such that depending on where you are with your stage of development, if it's just conceptual, yeah, we like the concept, or, obviously the less risk you're showing, the more interested investors are going to be. So we're going to have to call it a night. It's 8:30. We've had people working all day. Thank you. We had some people sticking around, the 34 of us. So thank you. I hope to see you all in person next week in the audience or on the stage, especially doing your 1-minute pitch. So thanks again. Thank you for coming. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks. Bye.